Hi, good morning. It is Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020. It is 9 a.m. If you would please rise with me and join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Boyce, a line of duty casualty report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I want to put this off till our October 7th meeting. A little bit nervous about doing the research. And in just 2 weeks, the last report that I did, Mr. Chair, was on the 9th. 159. Now it's up to 205, which is up 56 in those 2 weeks. So not good news. People don't think there's a war on police in this country. I'm going to have a little more detailed report on the 7th. Honor the fallen military, up 3 to 25 for the year 2020. And here's a real, maybe it shouldn't be a surprise of the fires we've had, but throughout the country, not so much in the western U.S. during the wildland catastrophic fires, up 263, that's up 16 firefighters in 2 weeks. So I hope those numbers will go down. You've heard me say before, the total for 2019 on the fallen law officers is 147. So we have 3 months to go, and we're already 60 above that right now, halfway through the month of September. I'd like to have a moment of silence if we could, Mr. Chair. Thank you. The greatest sound to a spouse is when he or she, the officer, comes home and the Velcro comes off, the equipment comes off. Then we hear that Velcro sign. Thank you again, Mr. Chair.
All right. We have any amendments to the agenda? Council Huddle?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to add executive session 192-660 sub 2 sub F and H, pending litigation and confidential information.
Any further? Council or Commissioner Boyce?
Thank you. Need to add Kyle Stevens, just a quick 5-minute report, presentation, somewhat in conjunction with South Coast Business Employment Corporation. He is Executive Director, Curry Douglas, Southern Oregon Workforce Investment. That would take less than 5 minutes, Mr. Chair, and then I have a couple others.
Where would that be at?
Presentations right after item 5B, Mr. Chair.
And
He came down from Coos Bay today, this morning.
Steve. And who's he with again?
Southern Oregon Workforce Investment Board. I serve on that board.
So, and anything further?
Yes. Consent agenda 6B, I just want to do a quick clarification. I could do that now or wait, Mr. Chair. And also 6E on the communication towers, just a quick question or comment, even if Roadmaster Christensen isn't here. So I could do that now?
Yes, go ahead.
Coos Forest Protective Association, Doran Boggs called me up and gave me a bad time on the Lobster Creek fuel water bladder, and I said 500 gallons mistakenly. I knew that was not right. I'm going to tell him, yes, we could do 10 500-gallon bladders, or we could do one 5,000 gallons. So the correct on that, the correct size is 5,000 gallons. Big deal for our park, and great kudos to him for working on that. And then 6E, do you want me to comment later?
Well, Roadmaster's here.
Okay. Oh, hi, didn't see you.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Thank you.
Sorry, just if there was a
No,
question.
you're
I
fine.
missed
No.
it.
You're great, Shane. I'm excited to give you, is it now okay, Mr. Chair?
Well, as long as it's gonna be brief, yeah.
Okay,
Or we can pull it and put it on the,
I don't think that's necessary.
okay, go ahead.
Thank you again. You know, Mr. Christensen, Roadmaster, has been incredibly good to work with, and I'm anxious to approve of his signature authority on anything that has to do with the towers. I just want to make sure that the board is notified. I'm very interested. Refer back to the ride you and I had clear up on, that was an absolute adventure, and so I just have an interest in that, and I know you'll keep notifying us and keeping us in the loop, and that's all I had to say, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Anything further?
I have item 7D, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
Cypress RV and Campground, we're still not ready. I want to table this till the October 7th meeting if we could. It's just been back and forth on what the IGA, the intergovernmental agreement, should be, as opposed to just board authorization or awareness or some authority there. Darren Naval is going to work with Council Huddle and myself and make sure we finally get this really squared away. These people have done just a remarkable amount of work there, tremendous investment.
is this the one that got?
I'm sorry,
giraffe?
Cypress, yes, I'm sorry, Langless, Cypress RV and Campground.
Right, okay.
So it's for the right-of-way, ODOT, and we're just not ready, and so I apologize to the board for that. I'm gonna get it on the agenda again. And
So we're gonna remove that from the agenda?
Yes,
Yeah, I saw they put the fence and everything in already, and.
They're
and the
gaining.
giraffe.
Can I make one comment on that? I did talk to Mr. Neville, and he said we needed an IGA, and I would think that that would be the important thing to put on the next agenda, the IGA, rather than the letter of recommendation.
and that's why we're postponing it until the
Okay,
next meeting
that's
for
good.
that very reason.
Perfect. Is that all you have, sir?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Everything else will wait.
You know, I didn't bring the amended agenda, I just got that amended agenda last night, and I was rather concerned with an item that came up there on that relative to hiring a parks host. I am the liaison for the parks and heard nothing about it. I was over in Medford yesterday and did not get home till late last night and saw that on my email, so I would like to take that off the agenda for now.
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Here's where we are. Their contract ends on October 1st. We don't have another meeting till October 7th. This has not been handled, and they need a contract extension. They've done a tremendous job. We have lots of letters of support for them. We've not had good luck with park host, Curry County Parks this year, with them as the exception. I have on file, if the board would like to see, some letters of recommendation, appreciation. They've done a tremendous job. They want to stay through the winter, and I think that's the least we can do, and I think it shows some deference to the job that they've done. It shows a respect, and if there's an adversity to them being in the program, because technically they'd have to leave September 30th, because their contract ends. So I'm implore the board to treat these people good and have the contract extended and vote to do that today. Very important.
Commissioner Gold?
I did talk to Mr. Durock this morning about the situation, and he said he had every intention of setting up a contract next week when Ms. Schmelzer gets back, because she has been part of this process. So I think this could be taken off the agenda without a problem.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this board has a responsibility to look after the people that help us, employees and all. I think that would send a good message to all the park patrons, to the owners of property nearby, and I think it's a responsibility of this board. And I don't want to leave this day without showing the Meekins, who basically rescued us. They were overlooked from the very beginning. They rescued us, did an excellent job. Again, they have lots of support, and I don't want them just thrown to the side here, so.
Okay, well, rather than argue this, why don't we leave it on the agenda and we can talk about it
Okay,
during our
that's
regular
fine.
meeting? Anything further? Do I have a motion?
What's the, For approval of the agenda, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'll make that motion, thank you.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Roll, please.
Commissioner Gold,
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce,
Yes.
Chair Pash,
Aye.
motion carried unanimously.
All right, next we have public comments. Mary Rowe. Good morning.
Good morning to you. I'm Mary Rowe. I'm a physically disabled citizen asking you to not put the commissioner comments near the top of the agenda, nor to put the commissioner comments, the director's report, and the financial report before the presentations and public comments. As an environmentally ill person who can become impaired and incapacitated if I am here too long, that would prevent me from speaking. Other citizens have to get back to work, as these meetings are during the day. Some people may have to catch the transit back home, or they could be stuck here for hours. Staff have to get back to work. If you're worried about your commissioner comment being seen, it will be on TV, YouTube, and in the newspaper. Only a few people in attendance would see it anyway if it was at the beginning, so please put the needs of those you represent and the staff first. Boyce has already inserted a report about police casualties nationwide into the beginning of these meetings, a fire report that I think is important, and sometimes commissioners make statements at the top of the meeting about unusual events, including the expression of partisan positions despite the commissioner positions being nonpartisan. And increasingly, Boyce has been making part of the commissioner comments at the top of the meeting. Further, Boyce's commissioner comments, which are supposed to be 5 minutes, exceed that time greatly. And by the way, Boyce has people call into the meeting at 9:15, just as citizens are trying to make public comments. One of mine was destroyed by the continual ringing and then people hooking up the call. Meanwhile, we citizens have to play beat the clock with the buzzer, choking out a 3-minute statement, even though cities give us 5 minutes. Then we watch Commissioner Boyce waste a mountain of time and resources with no concern. Where is the mutual respect and prioritization? I would like to make a suggestion about the agenda. It is not about the format, but rather its oversight. Could the chair again oversee it, including the rejection of inappropriate and unfinished submissions? I believe that the September 2nd workshop violated an Oregon statute about the timely submission of the entire packet. And some citizens, including those who cannot use computers, could not get the packet in time. The CPT dial-a-ride schedule in Gold Beach would not allow me to get the packet, as the last ride of the day is at 1:30. Please be inclusive of the disabled and elderly next time. Finally, thank you to County Clerk Renee Colon for printing and bringing me the final September 2nd VOC workshop packet.
Thank you. Ms. Hunter?
Sorry, I was slow to get off my seat. My name is Connie Hunter, and I'm a proud citizen of South Curry County in the city of Brooklyn. And Suicide Prevention Month is September. I'd be neglect if I didn't come and speak about suicide among our veterans community. I just want to start with some statistics. Veterans who have a history of homelessness are 5 times more likely to attempt suicide than veterans who do not have that same history. Female veterans are 8 times more likely to become homeless than their male counterparts. Of course, that puts them at high risk for suicide. Winter's coming, and County Veteran Service Officer Tony Bowdy has requested help with gathering cold weather gear for our homeless veterans. Starting this drive requires designated drop-off points be determined, so that's the request I was shared with Tony. The winter weather wish list includes backpacks, tarps, tents, rain gear, outerwear, cold weather sleeping bags, coats, warm clothing, shoes, socks, and high protein snacks and meal replacement drinks. A good start would be having 30 sets of all of those things combined, but a better store would be 40 sets. In the meantime, contacting me via Facebook or at 602-541-5903 if you want donations picked up. I wanted to share an article, and I have sent it to the Board of Commissioners and others, regarding the hyperbaric oxygen therapy as a solution for veteran suicide problem. That link is to an article that I think will be eye-opening for many people. Previously, I had developed and shared a plan with the Oregon Health Authority using the North Carolina State HBOT for Veterans program as a template that includes funding strategies. After having spoken with a number of veterans who have survived many things and were very suicidal, HBOT treatment was a success. Until such a time as HBOT is provided widely for veterans, if you know someone who is needing the support, please visit America's Mighty Warriors website to read about their program. There is help available through those efforts. America's Mighty Warriors was started by Gold Star mother Debbie Lee, mother of Navy SEAL Mark Lee, who was the first Navy SEAL to fall in Iraq. If you saw the movie American Sniper, Mark Lee is the SEAL who died on the operating table and whose funeral was depicted. This is going to, I'm going to ask a little grace at the end for my time. Gold Star Family Remembrance Week. Please keep family members of our fallen in your thoughts and reach out to them. My own brother, who is highly invested in my nephew who was killed in Iraq, took his life. His name was Keith Phillips. He had some issues, but his heart was broken, and he never regained his resilience after Kyle died. I do not know of a study that exists to determine the effects on families of the fallen with regards to suicide among this especially vulnerable group. Thank you for your time. Please read the entire email associated with this, because I didn't get through all of that in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hunter.
Connie, look at the screen. Thank you for sending that. You had a great deal.
Oh, thank you so much. If you could just go
Pretty
down a little
important,
bit,
so
yeah, it'll
get the
tell you
dates
there.
here. Is that what you want?
Yes. Honoring and recognizing the sacrifices made by the family of members of the armed forces who have made the ultimate sacrifice in order to defend freedom and protect the United States, and by the families of veterans of the armed forces. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Connie.
Incidentally, I have worked in and around a lot of hyperbaric chambers, so I know a lot about them, if you have any questions about them. Next is Gordon Clay. Morning, sir.
Good morning.
Walking a little short today, sir.
Yeah, the body doesn't move like it used to. For the record, my name is Gordon Clay from Brookings, Oregon. September is Suicide Awareness and Prevention Plus Action Month. Studies show that persons experiencing mental health problems or emotional distress frequently turn to faith-based communities and their leaders for help. To be honest, life can sometimes feel overwhelming and challenging. Sometimes events can leave us feeling worthless, abandoned, and isolated. Faith-based communities seek to be caring communities that focus on the hope that life's challenges can be overcome and bad feelings will subside. Through connections within their own community, individuals can find strength to live out each day as it is presented to them. Even when they walk through the valley of the shadows and feel that they don't have the strength to face another day, they find help through friends, loved ones, co-workers, members of their faith community, their rabbi, pastor, imam, priest, or professionals such as counselors, therapists, and doctors, which can be a listening ear when they feel most troubled or alone. Our communities of faith should be a place where they protect and comfort each other when faced with the issues of suicide. You and your faith community can help in many ways. Know the facts. Suicide does not discriminate. It can touch people of all ages and classes, all racial, ethnic, and religious groups. However, suicide is also preventable, and your faith community can play a role. Talk about mental health. Help your faith members understand mental health problems as being real and treatable in the same way physical problems are. Speak and pray about mental illness just as you would about physical illness such as cancer, heart disease, or diabetes. Promote connectedness. Fellowship groups, choirs, service work, and worship all are ways people can connect in faith communities. Such connections can let people know that they are not alone and they are cared for. Narratives of hope. Faith communities share stories from the Bible, the Quran, and other sacred texts on how people can overcome adversity and experience God's presence in times of struggle and hardship. They also share their own stories, their faith and courage. That can give hope and strength to others. Check out the website zeroattempts.org/faith-based.html for stories, sermons, prayer guides, sample bulletin inserts, handouts, even children's sermons, and much more. Last, become an active member of the Curry County Suicide Awareness and Prevention Council to further this critical community work, and know how to access and provide connections of support, including the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 800-273-8255 and the crisis text line texting SOS 741-741. It could make a big difference. Where there is help, there is hope. And I just want to share that we're starting to distribute the brochures that the council made, and we're replacing in these cards, the crisis cards, in all 120 locations here in Curry County. And pick one of these. If you didn't get one in direct mail, pick one up and keep it handy in your home for a reminder.
I don't imagine the commissioners would mind having one of those on their counter in the block office. Would be great.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Great job, Gordon.
Next we have Hazel Hoffus.
Some pictures and just a little thing here to.
Could you pull that one mic, that tall mic down to you? There you go. Thank you.
I have some pictures and things, and could I give you a copy so
Yes, that'd be fine.
see what's happening?
We may be able to use the Elmo device and put them on the big screen for everyone to see as well.
Okay.
Why don't you see if we can.
Okay, this is my, let me get you. These are the important ones right here, though. And then this is, I've got copies of my write-ups here, I've got 3 copies here, maybe one for John. My name is Hazel Hofstas, and I was born and raised at Flores Lake. And what I'm kind of distributing to you is first is a picture of overall Flores Lake, and that gives you an idea of kind of where most of the population is. And then I'm bringing you into something called Lakes End
You
Drive.
want me to try to do that, Eric? You can go back to the machine. Sure, yep.
Chris.
All right, Ms. Hofstas, why don't you just tell me when to switch?
You're upside down.
Yeah. It goes
Well,
like.
it depends on how you're sitting.
Okay, and really this was just to situate you. I'm not sure how familiar people are with, or how familiar you are with Flores Lake and that area being clear at the other end of the county. So that was mostly for me to be able to give you an idea. This is,
Does it need to go over further?
no, this is okay. This is okay. The place I'm talking about is up here. I own property in here. What I want to talk about today are Airbnbs.
and the impact they have on communities. This is a dead-end road, and it's been a residential area in which we've had, up until now, a very quiet neighborhood.
This looks like
About
just the
18
same thing, just a farther away view.
That gives you a whole idea of kind of the area of Flores Lake where most of the population is. Boys Cove Park is further up north on this. About 18 months ago, a house next door to me sold. A really wonderful woman died, and her family sold a house. It was purchased by a gentleman who remodeled it, and it was originally a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. He remodeled it into a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, and added a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom studio in the garage. All work was done with no permits. It also has 2 laundry rooms because they need that in order to keep up with the amount of laundry generated by this Airbnb. I brought this to the county's attention in June of 2020. It's been allowed to remain open. There seems to be no penalties for no permits. And I understand there have been some crises in the county. I understand why people haven't been able to get things done. I appreciate that. I also appreciate that at the county you're overworked and underpaid, and I do appreciate that. The owner lives about 2 blocks away, and all summer we've had nothing but all kinds of traffic and noise. As you might understand, I don't know if you've ever lived next to an Airbnb, but people there are on vacation, they're having parties, they're loud. If you say that 4 people are allowed, there's usually 8 there because they're all trying to get away as cheaply as they can, and so what they're doing is they're doubling up on the amount of people there. Last weekend, for example, at this Airbnb, we had...
Are we looking for another photo?
This is the photo I'm looking for.
We got it. He's got it.
You got that one? Okay.
This one here?
Yeah. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a car here, there's 2 vans up there, there's a Winnebago, a motorhome, and 2 cars up here. Now, in addition to that, this is looking at it from one angle. If you look at this next one like this is the lake side. I was out on the lake, and it's hard to see, but what we've got here is, so I did this picture so you get an idea of where they were, but this is probably a better picture, John. Just
Okay, the next one?
okay, the next one, and there's actually 2 more, and what I'm showing you here, here's another car down here, here's another one, and there's another one. That's the traffic that we've got at this one house. Let's see what I wrote it down here, how many? 3 cars, motorhome, and 4 vans, and actually there's actually 5 vans there. Now the owner's very careful. When he advertises his residence, he says there's no motorcycles, no motorhomes, et cetera, because he does that to keep the local people happy. However, it also says if you want to, call me and I'll make exceptions. And obviously, these are the kinds of exceptions. So, I have a real problem with this kind of thing going on in a nice little neighborhood, especially when he does it illegally and doesn't have permits. I have a question. A 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom house has a certain septic system, and I gotta believe when you have all these people there using it that you're way beyond this old septic system in this house that was built back in the 60s. So, and I know nothing was ever done on that. So what I'm asking, I think homeowners should be allowed to have some input as to what happens in their community. And so I'm asking someone to come in and close this down if they can, or at least limit it. And also, it seems to make sense for the county to establish some kind of rules and regulations regarding Airbnbs. Now, on this area of the lake where I am, there's 3 Airbnbs. One of them is 3 houses down from me, this one is next to me, and then 2 houses north of this one is another Airbnb. And the one south of me, whenever there are people there, they have to park on the road because there's no off-street parking. This particular one, all summer, we've had boats attached to, trailers and boats in the street all summer long. And it seems to me that we should have some say in our local community what happens with that. That's all I have. I just wanted to ask two things. One is, can we do something about this particular bed and breakfast? And can we establish some rules and regulations? Maybe something like a conditional use permit. And can we get input from the local citizens as to whether or not we want this kind of thing in our community? And I thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate it.
I think we've already established a moratorium on B&Bs in the county.
Well, this was put in with no permits. He operated.
Right. No, I'm not disagreeing with you, but we have already taken steps.
Okay.
However, I think code enforcement maybe needs to go down and take a look at this and
They have gone to take a look at it.
Well,
there was talk of shutting it down. It didn't happen. I know there, as I said, some things happened in the county that made it hard for people to do anything. But if there's a moratorium, then this should never have been put in.
I just have to say, you are not the first person complaining about problems in neighborhoods, residential neighborhoods, due to B&Bs. There, I have had quite a few calls, and I understand your concern, so.
Okay.
Commissioner Boyce?
We have Director of Planning here, Becky Crockett. She may have some comments on this, if I may, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Director Crockett.
First, I want to thank Hazel for coming forward and explaining this particular issue. It is a problem throughout the county. The reason it's the problem because we don't have good land use regulations that deal with vacation rentals. Typically and historically, these were set up as bed and breakfasts. Bed and breakfasts are on the way out, and they're just outright rentals of property that people put on Airbnb and the many other organizations that manage these kind of facilities. Other jurisdictions have put in place vacation rental standards. It's a fairly complex system to deal with all of the issues that are associated with vacation rentals, but it is time for the county to step up to the plate and actually put in place regulations for vacation rentals that cover all of the issues: parking, how many people, the safety issues in the structures. We had one person try to rent out a boat that didn't have a bathroom, and you had to climb up a ladder to get in the boat, and if there were a fire, you couldn't get out of the boat. So, I mean, we've had a lot of issues associated with vacation rentals, and I think as a starting point, it would probably behoove all of us to have a workshop to try to figure out how to manage these. We estimate there's probably about 500 of these in the county, just based on the input that we're getting.
Commissioner Boyce?
Just a quick comment, or maybe a question. You just said 500. In some ways I'm surprised by that, in some ways I'm not. But just hearing from some of the builders, contractors, developers, they're feeling like if some of these projects get the slightest resistance, then it's easy to go underground. We've talked about an amnesty program. Maybe, Mr. Chair, I would agree a workshop might be very timely and important. We might want to tie all that in together now, because we have gone through the extended period on the amnesty, and the bottom line is these folks have got to come in and get a permit. Stating the obvious, but I think it's good recognition, and if we have that many properties out there, we've talked to the assessor, he and his staff have been concerned and tried to identify some of these code enforcement. No surprise, he's already been there. But yeah, I think a workshop is in order. Thanks, that took longer than I wanted, Mr. Chair.
I would agree with having a workshop, and I think we need to do something about this. The unpermitted properties and so forth can cause danger to those using them, so.
You want to step back up to the microphone, please?
Thank you, Director Crockett.
I just have a real quick comment. It sounds like there's a moratorium on them, and yet I'm aware of another one on Flores Lake Drive that just opened recently. So they are opening up all over the place, just so you know it.
So when Ms. Schmelz, when Ms. Schmelzer returns, we'll plan a workshop in the next couple of weeks, and we'll begin to deal with this. Thank you.
Thanks
And
again.
that workshop will be open to the public. David Barnes? All right, we're going to move on to presentations. 5A, Curry County Emergency Services and Preparedness, Ruth Dixon.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna take my mask off because I believe in expressions, but I do wear my mask.
And that's okay.
So my name is Ruth Dixon, and I am here representing CERT, Community Emergency Response Team, and DART, which I'm currently renaming CART, and I'll explain why shortly. Program coordinator. Hey, do I get paid for that? Oh. On a good note, I'm also here representing Curry County 4-H and Extension. I do work for them. I do get paid for the work that I do for them in disaster preparedness. I have a brief presentation, but first I wanted to introduce a couple people to you to show you our community. I'd like to introduce Jaden. She's one of my 4-H members. She has a brief comment to make to everyone. And she requested to attend today. She contacted all of her teachers and explained what she was attending. So this is showing you the quality of youth that we have coming forward.
Step right up there.
During the Checo bar fire, we had 18 horses at our house, and it was very rewarding to me to let the owners know that their animals were safe and they didn't have to worry. But we took care of the horses. Some of them stayed for 2 months. But it was really nice to help them and let the owners know that their animals are safe and they don't have to worry.
Thank you.
That took courage.
A lot of courage.
Yes,
you know, and
yes.
I have to tell you that, also real quick, I'm going to make Dave stand up and I'm going to ask Lisa Shore to come in. You, Dave. These are a couple of our CERT members. That I think, Dave, did you take your training the same time I took mine? Or yes, we took CERT training 3 years ago from Jeremy. Lisa Forte, who had a couple of things to say to you. She attended the most recent CERT class. When Jeremy came, we had about six CERT members, and now we have around 200 who've taken the training.
Hi.
Morning.
Hi. I just moved to Gold Beach about a little over a year ago, and I was looking for a way to get involved with the community, and I saw the CERT training ad, and I thought it'd be challenging, and at the end of the first day I realized that there was a huge need for organized response and coordinated action when there's some sort of a disaster around here, because I came from a big city and I'm not used to the idea that there isn't agencies falling all over themselves to help you, and it really was really rewarding just to see everybody so professional and so effective. And I mean, I'm not looking forward to an incident or but I know with confidence that everybody that's a member of that I know that we could be where we're needed and do what is needed, and that makes me feel good to know that there's other neighbors looking out for neighbors and somebody organizing it so that it's effective and safe. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now for my little part. And the reason I asked these folks to stand up or speak is that it's not just one person that does all this. It can't be one person. I used to be the person that tried to do it all, and I found out that doesn't work. So, in 2017, I inadvertently became the organizer of the Chetco Bar Fire Animal Evacuation Center. It was August 17th, and I was on vacation after summer camp and fair, and I was riding with one of our horse leaders, and we were joking about everybody who was all worried about the fire and the smoke. And we started getting phone calls, and we started hauling horses and pigs, and literally at 3 o'clock in the morning, I was building pig pens. Horses went to Commissioner Posh's ranch. So much for relaxing. And we were able to create a safe location for these livestock and horses. And I jokingly say it was dumb luck, but when I gave my boss this presentation to review for me, she said, you need to allow yourself to say it was my decades of experience with planning and volunteer management through 4-H that made this a success. As a direct result of that, I realized that most people are not prepared to evacuate or shelter in place with their animals. And when I went to people to help them afterwards, they were like, oh, it's not going to happen again, or you'll be here to help, it's okay. Some of the people that hauled evacuated animals out during that time themselves had animals evacuated. After the Chetco Bar fire, I was trying to get things cleaned up because I found out you lose volunteers after it's all done, after the fun stuff's done. And Jeremy was the recently hired director, and he called and said, I want to help. And he came down and helped, and he talked to me about creating an organization and working together, like all of us in any form of emergency preparedness. And I liked that idea that we all work together. Nothing divides us. We don't look at politics. We don't look at, nothing divides us in our desire to help other people. So I got on board with that. My job, OSU Extension, recognized this as a valuable way in which our offices across the state can make an impact in the community. Throughout the process, they've supported my effort and have since encouraged me in my pursuit in continued education courses. In fact, work that I performed during the Chetco Bar fire and the experience we gained during the event has been modeled across the state during the recent wildfire activities. I received phone calls from 4-H offices saying, give me your paperwork, tell me what you learned, what went wrong that shouldn't have happened. And because of that, Curry County Extension and 4-H, we're kind of like, woohoo, we're the, how often do we get to say we were the leader in this? I feel much more confident now in my ability to train volunteers and work with community members. I am now the Gold Beach CERT, which is the Community Emergency Response Team Director. I am a delegate for Eden Extension Disaster Education Network. I attended a conference in Spokane last fall and met with folks like me that are in the field. I'm an instructor for MyPI Oregon, which stands for My Youth Preparedness Initiative. And I've worked with Jeremy, and we've gotten teenagers are required to take the CERT training. The CERT training is a 28-hour training. There's adults that don't want to do that. And I've had over 25 kids take that training. My belief is that youth are more resilient than we give them credit for. They follow instruction, and people will listen to youth better than they will to me about being prepared because they see it as something that's more real. Jaden will be taking that training this fall. We're looking at doing for the youth a Zoom one, another Zoom, but she stepped in and helped with a recent thing that I'm going to tell you about. I've also worked with Extension and 4-H and OSU staff members, local CERT members, Jeremy Dumeier, Dave Fortman, the Curry County Code Enforcement officer. I talk a lot, and I don't know why I get nervous, but I do.
Yeah.
I guess the day I don't get nervous is the day that
We won't tell him. Dave's probably been called an animal before, so don't worry.
Okay. And I'm also working with Dave Fortman and Jeremy to create a Curry CART team. It's sometimes called DART, which is Disaster Animal Resource Team. I want to create a Curry CART, County Animal Resource Team. We're not a rescue. We're not going to take in your neighbor's horse that's starving. We're not going to rescue dogs. We are going to educate and provide resources for people for all types of emergency situations. We are looking for support with that and ways to make that happen, both to get our volunteers needed training and to ensure that we reach as many people as we can. So during the recent outbreak of wildfires in Oregon, I received a call from Chris Brosey, who is the interim director of the Event Center on the Beach Fair Board. And she helped during Chetco Bar fire, and she said, I'm feeling like maybe we need to get ready. And I had already, actually I think I sent Jeremy an email saying something feels wrong here. So I said, okay. So I contacted Jeremy, I contacted the state vet, we got permission for horses to be moved across state lines without the needed tests. And about 2 weeks ago, we built an animal evacuation center in the arena at the fairgrounds. Have we used it? Nope, we haven't had to. But we are now shining throughout the state as the county that was prepared. We were ready to go. We had everything in place. Some people have not understood that, but for me and my experience during the Chetco Bar fire, I'd much rather be ready ahead of time than have something go horribly wrong. and this is my pitch to you guys. I truly believe that volunteers are the most important part of any disaster team or emergency team. Jeremy, you get paid for your job, I get paid for my job. But if it wasn't for the volunteers and the people that step up to help us, it wouldn't happen. And these are people that are passionate about helping other people. I want to do training and resources to help guarantee the success of these volunteers and our community by providing free CERT trainings, things like the MyPI 4-H Club, and community outreach in the form of public service announcements and short courses offered through library, schools, senior center, and other organizations, including OSU Extension. We have a vast array of resources and publications to help increase awareness and safety in our county. One of my biggest goals, and here's my 4-H push, is to continue to provide opportunities for 4-H youth to receive training opportunities across the state. I took 3 members to a technical large animal emergency rescue training, and these were 15-year-old kids that watched videos of barn fires and horses dying and how to rescue them. I want to continue to provide that for our youth, because these are the kids that are going to be me in a few years, that are going to be Jeremy in a few years. So, but along with that, CERT is very special to me. On a personal note, I was born and raised in Curry County. I'm a pioneer family. Walkers from Pistol River. But Jeremy approached me over 3 years ago about becoming a trained CERT member. And I told him point blank that I was not going to come to town to rescue people if I was home safe and sound during an emergency. I wasn't going to be that person. If I'm home safe, that's where I'm staying. He said he was okay with that, because that meant that he knew my community, my neighbors, would have assistance. And I liked that thought. I liked that I could give back without really having to dedicate myself. It meant that I didn't really have to commit myself. Fast forward to 2020, and I may not have wanted to commit myself, but my husband thinks I should be committed, because at a moment's notice, I will be out there helping load animals or finding a way to help someone. A few years ago during the floods in Curry County, Jaden's mother called me at midnight. I was in Portland. I called Jeremy, and we set up a way that the animals, if needed, could be taken to the fairgrounds, and they were. So I really believe that as a team we can work together. So even my husband is on board now, though, with making sure we can shelter at home, or that if needed we can transport our animals to safety. And he was one of the people that made so much fun of me when I started planning this. So if a big storm is forecast, I reach out to my community and say, hey, are you thinking about this? Do you have enough hay? What if your bird watcher's out and can't get to town? It's kind of a letdown knowing that I don't have to rush into the store to get batteries and milk and bread. It's like, oh, kind of takes the fun out of it. But between CERT, MyPI, and the hopeful creation of a county animal resource team, I have hope that by providing the education, the disaster will not be as big. And I just wanted to, during National Disaster Month, I wanted to thank you for listening to me and understanding why I might be calling you in the middle of the day. I talked to Chris's wife when the fire started, and she was like, I can take animals. So we truly are a community that, though we have our differences in many things, I think when it comes down to taking care of each other, we can get it done. And I just ask you to join me.
Commissioner Boyce?
Commissioner Pash, is it true that during the Chetco Bar fire you nicknamed Miss Dixon Sarge?
I believe I did, yeah.
And by the way, what's wrong with the Walker family in Pistol River?
Well, yeah, because you and I are probably technically related somewhere. There's nothing wrong.
Could
My
be.
grandma was
Could
a
be.
walker.
Oh,
My
don't you
grandma
forget
was
it
a
either.
walker. Yeah.
Commissioner Gold?
I just want to thank you, Ruth, for coming. This is really a timely message. And just to say one thing, when Jeremy first came on board, I had a talk with him about the CERT program, and he indicated to me that there were only 6 people who were trained, and he was going to work very diligently to get there. He also indicated to me that in Del Norte, they had 600 people trained. And I think this is a great program, and like you said, you don't want to be called out to some other neighborhood. If we have all of these volunteers trained, then they can help in their own neighborhoods. So I really appreciate what Jeremy has done in this program and what you have done. Thank you. Kudos.
Again, I want to reiterate that Jeremy coming to help when I needed it was really like it helped me to feel better because I did have some struggles during the Checo Bar fire with getting things I need. Everybody's like, well, you've got it handled. And I'm like, I do, but if there's help, I want it, you know, and I wasn't very good at asking for help. And I think in the last 3 years, I've gotten pretty good at saying, I need help. And you calling me Sarge cracks me up because I used to be one of the people that would never never tell people what to do or what needed done. And I know that some of my 4-H members jokingly say they're a little afraid of me. Jaden, are you a little afraid of me?
No.
I think so. We had a lot of fun setting up the training at the evacuation center, and a couple of the members actually said, I'm kind of bummed we didn't get animals because we were ready to help. Lisa came down and she indicated she would be my data entry person because you need that. You need to keep numbers so that we can show the government and FEMA how we're affected. And Sue, I appreciate you reaching out to me. We had a great talk the other day. So I'm going to encourage all of you, if you have any animals at home, Chris, to come up with some sort of plan. You know, if there's a fire burning down and you let your horse out, quick question, do you leave the gate open or do you close the gate? Good question. You close the gate.
You run back into
They
it.
run back in.
Yep.
So it's easy to get some education and people will be, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So just little blurbs that settle in people's mind are what gets it done. So
I would like to say, and I will speak for my wife as well, it is our pleasure to know you. You are a wonderful person, and your family is a great family. A little side note about this lady, raining sideways in the middle of February a few years ago. She is sitting in a field with my wife at 2 a.m. trying to help a cow that couldn't get up, a calf. And she sat there for hours, and you've been to my ranch several times to help my wife on things.
yeah.
But that particular evening, I remember it was 2 a.m., Bonnie said, and this lady is out in the middle of the field on her hands and knees in the mud, just sat there for hours to help this cow. So it is my distinct honor and pleasure to know you. And my ranch, my family is always open to whatever we can do for 4-H, to CERT, whatever we can do to further this. I am 100% on board.
And I appreciate that, Chris. You guys have been good friends to me, and I remember you coming into the school board meeting and tapping me on the shoulder and going, I need to talk to you.
You and I are going to be friends.
I like what I do, and I am truly blessed to be paid for what I do. I get paid to go to 4-H camp. I get paid to go to fair. And now I get paid to help kids and other people learn how to be a little more self-sufficient. So I'm truly blessed.
Thanks.
Thanks.
It's nice to have very pleasant things in board meetings. 5B, Miss Corliss and Miss Taylor, Workforce Program Manager for South Coast Business Employment. Commissioner Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't preempt their wonderful presentation. This organization in the early 90s, I served on the first board volunteer that they ever had. And the title speaks for itself, Business and Employment Corporation. So welcome, both of you. Thanks for being patient. And also on the scheduling on this, we're sure glad to have you here.
Thank you. Good morning. We're glad to be here. Did you get the PowerPoint that I sent over? Awesome.
You might want to take the mouse here. How do I get the big screen here?
I'm sure they know.
I'm going to learn something here.
So I am Chelsea Corliss, and I'm the Workforce Program Manager for South Coast Business, and we rolled Recruit Hippo out in Coos, Curry, and Douglas counties last year. And as a result of the success that we had last year, we were able to hire somebody who's dedicated to overseeing this program in every county because it just was requiring way more time than I could give it. So we have brought Annabelle Taylor onto the team, and I'm actually going to let her do the presentation today about the success that we've had in Curry County and what our service delivery is going to look like with the pandemic in the schools.
Both of you, thanks for coming down from Coos Bay this morning.
Perfect. Thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. So Recruit Hippo, yes, we are Coos, Curry, and Douglas County. We stand for helping individuals pursue professional opportunities. And so if you have questions of where Hippo came from, that's where that's coming from. We are connecting local businesses with the future workforce. So we are the youth program of South Coast Business Employment Corporation. And our business services specialists, technically in an adult realm, have been out there for 20 plus years. We've been doing this, our business services have been working with our career consultants to bring local employment to our workers here. Our goal is that our talent advisors are working then with our youth programs and the college and career specialists in the schools to do that same type of handoff. So we are trying to create a fluid path between our workforce preparation and the local community needs. That's where our services are umbrellaed under, is South Coast Business. So you already met Chelsea Corliss, and for those viewing at home, here's some email addresses that you might want as well. Again, my name is Annabelle Taylor. I am the Youth Program Coordinator. I also work closely with the schools in Coos County. And down here we have a wonderful woman who came on. Her name is Jackie Graves, and she is going to be our current Curry Talent Advisor, working closely with the schools here. So her email is jgraves@squebec.org if you need to get a hold of someone here locally. And also I am overseeing the programs for the youth in both Coos, Curry, and Douglas counties. We are part of the youth workforce investment development situation that's been going on in Oregon. We have really close ties with a lot of the new and improved workforce options that are coming out. On further screen, I'll talk about our partnerships and how we get that information from our state legislatures, our state departments, and our funding, but our pyramid is very similar to that of all of workforce development, and you'll see that in our schools too. We've all realized the need of job readiness skills. We've realized we need to set that foundation in our youth, and after we set that foundation of soft skills, of being able to hear feedback, follow direction, follow instructions, we're looking at needing to work on the career exploration ideas. And that's where we really fall into. We fall into this middle section of this pyramid here with the hopes of helping direct them towards post-secondary education and training. And now that might look like college for some of our students, that might look like internships for some of our students, and that might look like apprenticeships. There's a lot of options out there for our youth. And so we're really working towards the idea of expanding the notion of post-secondary education. So it's not just going into a traditional accredited school straight out of high school. It's making sure that we're tailoring their program leading up to graduation so that they know what they're doing right out of high school. This diagram will kind of give a little bit more detail into what our programs look like. So if we're looking at our initial steps with our students, we're looking at goal setting. We're looking at developing work-ready skills. We're looking at exploring careers, giving them exposure to different jobs, and then overall working on a college or career training plan. And so there's several factors that fall under all of these. With goal setting, we want to meet with each student individually, and traditionally we've tried to meet with every senior in our schools at least once, and whether or not that's a presentation or a one-on-one meeting, it depends on the kid. It depends on what they're needing from us and what services they've already gotten from our schools. And under the assessments, we do have access to the Oregon CIS programs, which is the Career Information Systems assessments. And so that is a nice program that you get on. You choose different things that relate to you, and then it'll tell you a broad range really of careers that might interest you and that you should go into. From there, and from finding out what our youth are interested in, we are working with them to develop job readiness skills, and those can look like workshops, they can look like classes, they can look like one-on-one mentoring meetings. Overall, we want to get them out there exploring their careers. So we have the ability to host career cluster panel discussions, and these are things that we are looking at turning virtual. With COVID happening, with our different closures and our social distancing, there's really been a big push for virtual interactions, and so we do have several businesses interested in just sharing their knowledge in a type of online situation. That can also look like an industry tour, and in the past we have done those in person. So what we've done, and again I'll show you on another one, a partnership, is looking at Oregon Connections and online virtual tours. So it's really, it can be pre-filmed, it can be live with students, and there's really a lot of different ways that we can work with the current situations. Again, overall, we're wanting to expose them to different jobs. So we have our internship programs for youth who are 16 years and older. We have job shadowing opportunities, informational interview opportunities, and then once they hit 18 years old, we also have the option of using paid work experiences or paid on-the-job trainings to get them those skills they need and get them into a family wage job. So our communities are needing to work together, and that's really where we're coming into the whole situation again, is to bring different resources together. So Recruit Hippo is underneath South Coast Business. We are a partnership with WorkSource Oregon and the Oregon Employment Department, and we are in, we get a lot of trainings and a lot of services from Southwestern Oregon Workforce Investment Board. Oregon Connections is the company that I had just mentioned. In partnering, we are hoping to get all educators in Oregon a license to access the virtual tours and the industry discussions. And that is something that we are able to work on locally at a level and then use their website to launch if needed. So that's a way we can reach more students. I also, personally, I come from a background with the Boys and Girls Club of Southwestern Oregon. And so we do have curriculum and different programs that are under their workforce implementation guides. And that is something that we are looking at partnering, at least with some of our smaller schools, who we might not be able to get in-person internships due to transportation or locations. There's also programs out there that we can run as workshops or series. And so that is something I know we've worked with, specifically bringing it up with Pacific High School, maybe doing athletic careers, linking some of those students who are out of sports right now, and make sure they're still engaging and still getting some type of outside mentorship. So briefly, our program looks like this. So on our infograph here, our business services people are out there. They're already connecting with our businesses. They're meeting the needs or finding out what their needs are. And they report back to me and let me know there are some businesses who could use some internships. They're willing to host, or they're willing just to share their information out with the youth in our communities. From there, we interact with our students. We kind of gauge them. We almost do a triage system to see what are their interests and who are they going to best fit if they were to work with these businesses. And from there, it works alongside with their college and career specialists at their schools. So the incentive for our students is that they are getting credit for these internships. They are working a certain amount of hours, and that translates into credit for school. So that is the partnership there with the workforce. It depends on which school. They're called a work experience class. They're called a job preparation class. Some did it as maybe senior portfolios, capstone projects. Overall, though, we're all going for that same goal, and that is to have our youth future ready as soon as they graduate. So our program is very heavily housed on a website. It's called www.recruithippo.com. When students go there, they register for a profile, and once they get that profile, they have access to register for our events. If we have events going on, they also have the opportunity to sit with our talent advisors and work through creating an actual job-ready profile, which would describe their interests, their talents, maybe CTE classes that they've already taken. That is a profile that we can turn over to our businesses so that they can see really what the student is and decide from there if they're going to interview the student for an internship. So overall, our program does look like the full applying for a job situation, and instead they're applying for an internship and they're getting their hands held walking through this process. So if they come to me ready with a resume and they're ready to go, then it could look like a 1 to 2 week turnaround time. If they have absolutely no idea how to make a resume, it might look like a month or 2 before we get them placed. Oh, sorry, I clicked on something. This is our website, if you're interested in what it looks like. Let me see how to get back to my slideshow.
Up on top, you can go click that tab.
Okay, here we are. So in 2019-2020, this was last school year, and this is when Recruit Hippo did launch. So it was our first year. We were able to get into all the schools down here in Curry County. In total, we served 145 of your youth between Brookings, Gold Beach, and Pacific High School. Those youth were served in ways of resume building. We held NCRC workshops, which is the National Career Readiness Certificate. So those are some testings they can do to get that certificate. We held career counseling. We gave them labor market information. We did career exploration and held industry tours. So overall, from all of those 145 youths, we were able to place 14 students into internships. So they actually went through all the process steps, were hired into an internship, and successfully completed that. And we also had 19 paid work experience placements. And so those, again, are a set amount of time that a youth can go into a business, learn the kind of the workings of it, but then it's just for a certain amount of time. So it's not necessarily hiring in. A great way to visualize that is if someone's really interested in going into veterinarian field, they want to work with animals, then they have a paid work experience in a vet clinic and they find out maybe they don't want to be a vet. They might want to go and be a different sort of person working with animals. Overall, currently we have 179 business contacts active. Out of those, we have 24 internships that we have preloaded into our systems. Now we are able to create those internships based on the students that we serve, but we did want to go ahead and get some up and running and ready for students. Because of the virtual environment that we're dealing with, we're not actually in the schools right now physically. So we are wanting to approach it differently this year, so that students can sign up for that website, see what opportunities exist. If some of those are already something they're interested in, then we can go for that. And if it's something that we are not currently offering, we definitely have some connections to make that happen for them. One other thing that I wanted to bring up that we did last year that was pretty unique is that we held what's called an externship. And that's where, rather than taking the students on tours of the industries, we took the administration and we took the teachers, and they were able to get some continuing education experience from that. They all loaded onto a bus and they went to, you can see the different companies that they went to down here. They traveled to Tidewater Construction, Freeman Rock, BC Fisheries, Coos Curry Electric, South Coast Lumber, and Fred Meyer. And what they were able to do then is see what the work source needs were locally and what it would actually look like for a teenager to enter in as an applicant to those businesses. So that was one really great success that I wanted to point out.
Have you ever done the, may I, Mr. Chair? Quickly, have you ever done the tour in BC Fisheries where they put you in hazmat suits? And
I have not personally, no.
it's, I've actually done it twice, and it's, don't pass it up if you get a chance, but it's
Okay.
the latest technology, and everything's stainless steel and takes a lot of water. Anyway, forgive me, Mr. Chair, thank you.
That's quite all right.
Being an educator for over 50 years, I think what you are doing to prepare these students for jobs is really, really important. Not everybody is going to go to college, so I have a couple of questions.
Were you done with your presentation?
Yes, that is the final slide. Thank you.
I thought she was going to do questions, that's why.
And that was my fault. I interrupted you there.
Okay, I noticed that you had 145 served. Is that in Curry County or is that in Coos and Curry?
That's Curry County alone.
Okay, and then question, I noticed that you said earlier that you were meeting with all seniors at least once. Out of these 145, how many kids were actually seen more than once and got an in-depth idea of what's going on?
And I didn't pull those statistics. The majority of them had at least 2 meetings. Some might have been for the NCRC. I know that was a larger chunk. I think that was maybe like 35.
And I guess what I'm really trying to get at is we want some results.
Exactly.
Not just 1 or 2 kids getting an internship, so.
Exactly,
And,
yes.
and I'm sure that's what you're pushing for, so I do applaud you for pushing towards that, and we need to get more kids job ready. Because I think so many of our youth leave high school without any goals or aspirations or being job ready. So thank you for your work.
Yes, of course. Were there any other questions?
I have one. Of the 145 youth served, you have 14 internships for credit and 19 paid work experiences. You know, that's 33 kids, so we're still 112 kids that didn't get into that program for some reason. Have you done a study on why those kids, did they lose interest? Did they move away? I mean, that just seems like a large number. I know I happen to do some of this kind of stuff at my ranch as well. And kids, you know, have short attention spans. I understand that, but I'm just wondering if you guys have done any kind of research on why that whatever it was, I just saw 113 kids.
And we haven't looked into it specifically in terms of a project. It's definitely something I could, but from my knowledge of what I've looked at in their profiles, a lot of it was, it took time to get into the schools. It took that, you know, pretty much that fall semester to get the kids realizing what we were doing. A lot of them were starting from ground zero. So it really was that we were still working on finalizing resumes through February, March, when we would have been placing all of them, and that's when COVID for the closure. So as it was our first year out there, I think that would be where a lot of our foundation was lost.
Another thing I might ask is for future. You know, I know for a lot of the boys, I remember when I was a teenager, you know, getting involved with, you know, maybe some of the shops that do auto mechanics, you know, fabrication work like Freeman Marine, and there's also some auto fab shops, painting cars, construction, that kind of stuff. If you can get those relationships, a lot of construction jobs and those kind of things, they actually need interns, you know, and it's an easy in for those places. So just a suggestion to you, Commissioner Gold.
Another question, are you reaching out to younger kids other than seniors in high school? Because when you hit a senior in high school, it's almost too late, to be honest with you.
That is true, and I completely agree. And we do serve down to the age of 16. At some of our smaller schools too, we have the ability to work with younger students. Some might have a combined high school that goes all the way down to 7th grade. So definitely that interest is out there. For our grant funding, our requirements do have to be 16 to 24, but it's not to say we're not serving them, we're just not counting them in those grant funds. So definitely we're looking at even as low, as I said, 7th grade, 8th grade, starting getting that interest out there. And that's where the partnership with the Boys and Girls Club comes in very heavily, is that their curriculum is based on different age groups and does serve those early or late middle school students. So it's really well-rounded in how you can present it to students. And it's
Well,
nice.
they certainly have more enthusiasm in the junior high level, middle school than high school.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming. Appreciate you guys driving all the way down here.
Of course.
And I think what we need to do is, I know we've got someone else waiting that's come in. We need to take that 10-minute recess per our state law. So
Can we just try, we have Roadmaster Christensen in the green room. We have a 5-minute presentation. We could go maybe 10 minutes over. I would sure recommend that. If we could do the next 2 items, it would save time. Or not.
Well, I guess we can go a few minutes, just a couple minutes over. I'd like to wait with Mr. Christensen because that's probably going to take some time. But Mr. Stevens, as long as, and I don't mean to cut you short, but if it's going to be more than about 5 minutes, we'll need to take a break and come back. Or can you do it in about 5 minutes?
No, 5 or less.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Can I trouble you for that mouse, the turquoise and black? I think I've got available the printout that you sent on the CSA.
Oh, perfect. I have new data.
Thanks.
Oh, so this is outdated with you? That is no surprise.
As of this morning. So, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, commissioners. So what we were working on was a project that's called COVID Safety Ambassadors. The goal was not mask enforcement, but to encourage people to wear masks where it was possible. We were trying to make sure that our small businesses, restaurants, and bars stayed open. We knew that was on the chopping block for a little while, so we were trying to A, collect data, and B, make sure we got some masks out in the public. So we have 2 what we're calling COVID Safety Ambassadors in Curry County right now. They have been working for 7 days. They have passed out 670 masks. They've visited 64 bars and restaurants in Brookings, Gold Beach, Port Orford, and Langlois. And so far, they report that only 4 owners or managers had any difficulty with customers being compliant. All were appreciative of the free masks, and we're also promoting the website from the state right now where you can get free PPE as well. So what they receive is one of these bags. If they walk in, it goes to the owner or customer. There's 5 masks inside. It just encourages them. It says small business can only stay open if you mask up. And then they are also passing out the state sheet with the rules and a link to that state site for PPE. And then starting today, they're leaving them some coasters, so hopefully it'll have a lasting impression when we're not there. This is the same thing. And that's it. So that'll continue to run for a while. The funding for that program came from layoff aversion funding through rapid response. So the goal was it's going to be a lot more expensive for us if these bars and restaurants shut down again. Let's do our part to kind of show that we're doing what we can.
Commissioner Boyce?
You know, just explain what CSA means, number 1. Number 2, nothing about enforcement here.
No,
I come up with the idea of coach, and you come up with a much better idea, which was?
Safety ambassadors. So
Ambassadors, thank you. So
if they walk in and say, hey, would you like a mask? And the person says no, that's the end of the conversation. We leave some with the bar or restaurant owner. They're available if you need them. And that's the thing. I mean, they're hard to find sometimes. Sometimes maybe you don't want to stop and buy one if you forgot one. We'll leave them. We'll put them out. So I think we've put out about 140,000 masks since the start of COVID through this project alone. In Coos and Curry, we're up to 6,000, I believe.
Tell me how, if I may, Mr. Chair, how the program's been received so far from the different businesses.
Great. Yeah. So
They're asking questions, they're engaging, they're not feeling intimidated, obviously. It just, yeah, I thank you to SOWIB for the amount of money you extended and the idea that you came up with. So I think Commissioner Cribbins and Coos County might have had a little input there, but thank you very much. I don't have anything else, Mr. Chair.
And so I believe we'll start having a report that you'll receive if everybody wants it at least once a week. I know right now it'll run on Wednesdays. I think it'll probably go to Friday. And if you'd like it more frequent, so each of them has a cell phone in case they encounter any kind of issue. They submit a little thing saying where they've been. It goes in automatically tallied into a data sheet, and we can share that out as needed.
Okay.
And I will. I'll leave you some of this here.
Thank you so much.
Very good. And I didn't come up with the right attachment, or I would have had that up on the screen for you. Thank you. I think that was my, Well,
Thanks, Kyle. I appreciate it. All right.
3.
So it is 10:16.
Thank you, JJ.
We'll come back at 10:30 from our break. We're in recess.
There's something about having land and sea. Never having to choose between digging in or looking out. Here, you can go where the spirit or the wind moves you. To the tops of the trees, along secluded beaches, or into more wild and scenic rivers than anywhere else in the western United States. We're the closest place to the sunset, while still keeping your feet dry, and a destination where anyone can begin. We share more than we keep, so you can see more than you imagined. This is a place you have to touch, hold, and feel to believe. The entire shoreline of the West Coast's best coast is open to you, and playgrounds made of forests are waiting for you. Escape to Curry County and don't leave anything out.
If yours is the next big idea, and you need the right place to fine-tune it, build it, launch it, if you're only your best when you can play more than you work, if inspiration comes from the outside, you belong in Curry County. The westernmost point of the land you love, and the edge between familiar and uncharted. Break the pattern. Be where the airports are as close as the beaches, and industry and recreation never cease to amaze. Dock, dive, and dine in a single day, and never lose your connection. This is the threshold of the West. Live where you can do you, and do it well, at the farthest point from ordinary. Curry County, living on the edge.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Wildfire, as everyone knows, has emerged as one of the big major issues affecting Oregon and, for that matter, all western states. A real actionable response that's including how do we fight fire, actively managing our forests so that we don't have the fuels out there, and how are we going to protect communities from smoke exposures. The council's really set up to have a comprehensive strategy that's based on action and based on protecting our communities.
The primary focus we as a board have come through with is that in researching the policies for fire management, yes, prescribed fire has its place on the landscape, but not during fire season. We, as a county, passed a proclamation that says once the state fire marshal declares fire season, it'll be nothing but full suppression, and recently took a resolution to the National Association of Counties, essentially says that they support coordination between agencies and local governments for the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens regarding fire. Prescribed fire, fire season, anything that affects our citizens.
This is Lily Morgan from Josephine County, and we are at the Rogue Leadership Forum today, looking at the best possible partnerships that we can come up with to fight the fire issues and the smoke issues that we're facing in Southwest Oregon. So looking forward to coming up with solutions and the partnerships to get the job done so we don't face what we had the last few years with catastrophic fires and smoke that invades our communities for months to come. So this is a good opportunity, and we hope to be successful in the outcome.
Seeing so many people come together has really been exciting for me because there's a lot of expertise, there's a lot of resources, and as we attempt to do a shared stewardship approach to keeping people safe, it's really important that we get together. So my name is Merv George Jr., and I'm the Forest Supervisor for the Rogue River Siskiyou National Forest. The first things is making sure to get fires out if they're threatening life and property. The second thing that I'm going to focus in on is when it's safe to do so, to put some fire on the landscape when it's cooler and not during fire season, to reduce these same fuels that are giving us so much fits during the fire season.
Bob Horton, I'm the Fire Chief of Jackson County Fire District 3 in Southern Oregon. The challenges that are facing us in terms of the mega fires and the wildfires that we've been experiencing out in this valley, particularly in the last couple of years, but across the state and across the region, incredibly concerning to us in the fire community, those in our communities in general, our constituents and our patrons are extremely concerned, as they ought to be. And really the takeaway from the work that's being done now is this is an extraordinary collaboration of dozens on dozens of interested stakeholder groups who are coming together with a common purpose. It's really an inspiring showing of humanity to not only be able to provide for a greater quality of life for our people, but to be strong stewards of our land so that our future for us and generations to come is incredibly bright.
Very pressing issue. It's bearing down on us. Fire season is approaching, and I am really interested in preventing my home and other homes in my community from being impacted by wildfire, specifically from being burnt down. That's my main reason for being involved.
Quite a collaboration of folks. We're here looking for practical solutions to help us unravel some of the issues surrounding wildfires today here in the state of Oregon. And my focus really is on planning for large wildfire events in advance of their occurrence. That way, when they do occur, we can respond more appropriately to those situations.
Well, I just think it's grand if all of the people all over the state have come together today to be concerned about water. It just warms my heart because I know that they really will leave here today feeling more impressed about the water, because I have told them that we're all born in water. We cannot live without it. It's our job to take care and stop the garbage in the rivers and streams and oceans, because there's life in that water, and it's our job to keep it clean for them. Because we cannot live on this planet without the animal kingdom. I was in Ohio at the Ohio River with Dr. Emoto, the Japanese scientist who had proven water could heal. He and I stood on the riverbank and listened to the Ohio River that they had us come to do. And I prayed that God has still kept the river good for them over there. We were taught when we were little that prayer works. You too will remember your prayers because they work. It has nothing to do with religion or church.
Why do counties matter? Simple. Counties provide the services we all depend on. If you're concerned about crime, get a regular flu shot. Drive to work. Take public transportation. Or experience a natural disaster in your community. Chances are you benefit from county services. That's why counties matter. With America's system of federalism, counties are a key level of government, serving the people directly. So, do you vote? Had a recent hospital stay? Know someone in a nursing home? More reasons why counties matter. There are 3,069 counties across the country, with populations big and small. Most of us live and work in one. Even the nation's capital is considered a county. These county governments ensure that the food you eat in restaurants is safe. They care for the mentally ill, run court systems, build local economies, and operate 911 emergency systems. They manage parks and recreation facilities. And the list goes on. Thing is, counties serve the American people in so many ways, keeping our communities healthy, vibrant, safe, and fiscally sound. That's why counties matter.
Hi there, I'm Patrick Priest, Executive Director at CIS. And I really enjoy coming every year to this conference because CIS, we are all about counties. We are owned by counties. We were formed by the AOC. This is a great occasion for us to meet everybody in one place and learn what's important to the counties all across Oregon.
It's the networking. I mean, we learn a lot about the different issues that counties deal with, but it's networking with other commissioners, getting ideas on how they handle situations that is the most helpful for me.
I love my job. It actually matters to me on a daily basis. I used to do a lot of charity, and, you know, in commissioning in Deschutes County, you can make a serious difference. Lots of things have happened since I've been in office, and I feel like it's important to represent the people. I grew up in Eastern Oregon, and I love the residents of Eastern Oregon. The architect of our first house actually had Doris Day as a dear friend and a client, and he would bring Doris Day up the mountains in Malibu to our house as it was being built.
This is my fourth conference at AOC. My favorite part is the fellowship with other commissioners and coming up with solutions with common situations and with commissioners from around the state to best serve our people. My favorite part about being a commissioner in Josephine County is the people that we work with. We live in the most beautiful place, but we have the most beautiful people. They are talented, artistic, caring. We have such a high level of philanthropy and just caring for.
On September 23rd, 2020. Moving on with our agenda. We're going to go to the consent agenda. 6A, minutes, business meeting, August 5th, 2020. B, minutes business meeting August 19th, 2020. C, minutes special meeting September 8th, 2020. D, appoint Board of Property Tax Appeal members. E, board approval of a resolution designated roadmaster as a duly authorized county representative to execute on behalf of Curry County all documents for Emergency Communications Tower Grant Project 4452, and F, Veteran Department Supplemental Budget. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as written.
Second, Mr. Chair. Excuse me.
Further discussion? Roll, please.
Commissioner Gold.
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce.
Yes.
Chair Pash.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
Next, we're moving on to discussion and action items. 7A, request to reject all bids on Gardner Ridge Slide Repair Project and to rebid project at a future date. Mr. Christensen. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. The Curry County Road Department would like to reject all the bids on the Gardner Ridge Slide Project. We had some bidding issues in awarding, and the best thing to keep things moving forward would be to reject all the bids, and we'd like to go back out to bid again this Friday. We had local contractors contest the award to another contractor who had a first-tier contractor that we objected to after we talked with the state and some other past projects they had worked on. And so then we had the low bid at a second, their second contractor for building the wall, and the other two bidders, local contractors, contested that, us awarding that project. So the best thing to do is to move forward is just to reject all the bids and start a process over. It delays a highly weather-sensitive project is our biggest worry, but if we don't reject these bids and we try to move forward with one of these other contractors, I think we'll have problems with litigation.
You think the other two might sharpen their pencils a little bit as well?
Well, all three know each other's bids because all three attended the bid opening, and and so everybody knows.
Commissioner Boyce?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Roadmaster Christian, thank you. I mean, I've been up there at least once with you, and I've been up there 2 or 3 times, and it is such a high-risk area. You know, you and I are talking, we're just thankful that it made it through last winter. If everybody can just kind of picture, it's half the highway in a U-turn. There's probably about 200 feet on each side, and half the highway's gone. And it is I don't want to say the only access, but it's critical access to the folks that lost homes in the Checo Bar fire on Kate Road. And so he has been working overtime. We thought we had a bid. We're enthused to get the project started before the winter comes and washes the rest of it out. So he's also got some good options, and what you've presented and the approach you're taking, I think, is really good. And so I just hope we can accelerate that. And also, I'm very concerned about, and I know you are too, getting water off the road if we have to delay through this winter.
Right, and so we're working closely with FEMA, our geotechnical engineer, our contract engineer, and also South Coast Lumber, and the recent Checo Bar fires. One of the reasons why I believe this road failed, because the whole area was denuded and no vegetation grew for 2 years. And then we had last winter in April the huge FEMA rain event, and it just, with all that soil not being anchored with trees and plants and shrubbery, it just took our road with it. But so we have some options, and we're looking at working with South Coast Lumber and U.S. Forest Service to build a 2.1 mile detour around the slide, just in case we're not able to complete this project before winter storms hit, and we have to go through another winter, we'll protect in place what we have and have an alternate route in case it's needed.
Commissioner Gold?
I just want to say that I appreciate you stepping up to the plate and being the type of department head that can foresee these problems, and I support you in your decisions.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Boyce.
Just quickly, the relationship you built too with, in a short period of time with South Coast and vice versa, I think is obviously going to be very helpful. And so I just want the public to know that that's part of getting projects done, is understanding and working with people. And yeah, great. Thank you very much.
So I'm wondering, I just had a couple of questions. I had some citizens call me about this, and the Kate Road washout versus the Wilson Creek Road. From what I understand, you're going to do Wilson Creek Road, move that up?
No, I was investigating that because part of when we ran into this problem 2 weeks ago with the local contractors contesting the award, I knew we were going to have problems, so I started looking for alternate routes. So I checked the Wilson Creek route, and it's also a U.S. Forest Service road, but it hasn't been maintained for like 10 years. There's a big washout on it, and it's at least 8 miles, maybe 10 miles of a detour if we were to fix it. And it wasn't too affected by the Chucko Bar fire. There's a lot of overgrowing trees, leaning trees. The road sinks and slides all over the place, and it's 10 miles. It'd be a huge detour for those customers that live on Kate Road. And so we're really looking at pursuing the 2.1 mile detour, because a few years ago, South Coast Lumber, their 1.3 miles, they had already re-rocked it and everything for all the logging activity for the Chucko Bar fire. So it'd be a lot less work and cost to develop that route and be more customer friendly.
So the detour that you're considering, is that the old logging road that goes by the Freeman property, Ted Freeman's property?
Yes, it's
Okay.
just right adjacent to their
That's a great idea, yeah. That's a very good idea. Commissioner Boyce?
If for any reason the detour doesn't work out, in the interest of just any day that we can gain on this, the board may have to meet in a special meeting, because we have the 7th and the 21st, and so I want to make it easier for the roadmaster if we need to get together to help approve whatever we got to do, just to be flexible on that. That's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
At your service.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Council?
Thank you. Question. Sorry I came a little late, and I've been trying to track this. Rich Christensen, did we already then have the board move to terminate the prior procurement in the public interest, to terminate all bids and then go to rebid? Did the board make a motion for that?
Not yet.
Okay, good. I'm sorry, I just wondered.
Do we need one?
Yes,
Yeah, that would be appropriate for the reasons stated in the record, to terminate this procurement and go out to rebid, if there's a motion for that.
Yeah, we need a motion to
Mr.
reject all
Chair,
bids.
I make a motion to request that the board reject, through the roadmaster, all bids on Gardner Ridge Slide repair, the Kate Road project.
Do I have a second?
Do we need to add something to that and procure bids for?
No, it's really, thank you. That's the next step, and he'll be doing that as a matter of course. But we had a bid out there, and so we're in the process of deciding whether to, go through the challenges or terminate the bid in the public interest. And the motion is to terminate the bid in the public interest.
Okay, I'll second that.
Further discussion? Roll, please.
Commissioner Gold.
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce.
Aye.
Chair Pash.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to do 7B, letter of support proclamation for mountain bike hiking, current trails development. Commissioner Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Lacey, thanks for hanging in all day. We really appreciate it. Mr. Chair, I could read the proclamation. I don't think that's necessary. You know, we're obviously very excited about this whole concept of this kind of visitor promotion that is, you know, just it feels like Coosa County and Curry County, but especially Curry County, very adept and ideal for, world class is not an overstatement. And so I just want the board to, I'm hoping you will support this proclamation, letter of support, so we can get the word out. And I put in the ARS that, you know, all the visitor promotion that the county's doing, that the City of Brookings, City of Gold Beach, City of Port Orford, Langlois, and yes, even Agnes, it's all going to tie in. And so just very excited about this. I'm going to buy a bike someday with big tires, big tires. So I appreciate the board's consideration on this, Mr. Chair.
I would like to say that I fully support this. Actually, when I met you a few years ago, we talked about, this is one of the first conversations you and I ever had, was about completing the trail system down the coast, because so many people have to get off that trail and come up on the road for a period of time and then get back down on the trail. So I would love to see this thing.
And I know we don't want to say no to Dave Lacey, correct? Oh, I don't want to speak for the board here.
All right, so do I have a motion?
Also move, Mr. Chair, that we approve this proclamation, letter of support for world-class mountain biking trail development. Development is a key word, and we're going to get more on this down the road and down the trail, I'll put it that way. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Roll, please.
Commissioner Gold.
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce.
Aye, aye.
Chair Pash.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, next we have 7C, Curry County contribution to grant writing, park resources. Commissioner Boyce.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. This is also a project that I'm equally excited about. It's good for the city of Port Orford. Mr. Lacey has also been very intricately involved in this, and he's the one that wrote the bullet points that I'd like to offer the board here. Let's see where we are. Forgive me 1 second here. We just did that one, so let's get out of this and go to... Whoops. Dave, come on up if you would. Well, number 2, you said, I'm sorry, JJ. Yes, sir. And that's what I want. Oh, there we go. Mr. Chair, Board, the Marine Board they don't normally jump in and do non-motorized projects because their budget comes from motorized registration. But when they see a project like this, they tend to do a second look, and then they not only done that, but they volunteered to date. Correct me if I'm wrong anytime, Dave. They volunteered to date this engineering process and part of it. And there is a little bit of conflict between another boat ramp and different river users. The reason I'm supporting this, obviously I'm not going to support prohibition on non-motorized unless it makes sense. And so this is a specific boat ramp that the Marine Board is looking at to have their, it's a combined project between Travel Southern Oregon Coast, who's given us tremendous support, the Oregon Coast Visitors Association, hopefully the Curry County Board of Commissioners, City of Port Orford, and Port Orford City Parks. So, but we have to have an application, and so that's where, oh, come on, go to the next one here. Just, so we need an application, and that's where Park Resources come in. So I'm asking the board to contribute $500 towards Park Resource. Anything over that, which probably reasonably significant, would be they will donate. And of course, they're still interested, to my nudging, on building a good relationship with Curry County. Dave, what would you like to add there, please?
Just that the new waterways access permit, that any person who paddles a craft of 10 feet or longer on any waterway in Oregon, they have to buy this permit, and that's where the funds go to this new non-motorized granting source through the Marine Board. So it's slightly different than previous grants that were from motorized boats. So that's why they want to use it for paddle-only infrastructure. So just around the corner from Garrison Lake, there's the existing 12th Street boat ramp. and that's where people will launch boats. This would be a place for paddling enthusiasts to launch, so there's less congestion at the boat ramp, there's less conflicts between paddle sports and boats. There's nothing currently really here, it's just a dirt slope into the water. So they want to put parking, restrooms, a kayak launch, which is basically like just a sort of like a cradle for your craft as you get in it and get on the water, so it's much safer and easier, and it would be ADA compliant. And let's see, other than that, the Marine Board has offered their engineering talents, which is a huge cost savings for this project. So I feel like we really need to take them up on this opportunity to develop it.
Council?
Just a question of clarification. There's Commissioner Boyce closed with a request for a $500 contribution, and so I'm just wondering, the contribution to who? You mentioned several different entities, and I'm just wondering, is there some organization who's the lead on this? I mean, would we just give the money to Park? Would we give it to another organization who's Park's client? I mean, how's this deal structured right now? Who are the players? And
the city will be the people submitting the actual grant and receiving the funds to do the project.
are they in contract with Park Resources as a grant writer then?
I don't think so, Court.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Park would write the grant for the
I don't
city.
believe so either.
Okay,
That would be
so
my-
would we then communicate to the city that if they contract with Park, we will put $500 towards that contract? I mean, how is it best to do? In other words, that's just to say we're gonna send $500. I'm trying to get to the details, Dave, I'm sorry.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Okay.
And that's fine, that's good.
Yeah.
Why couldn't the county do it on behalf of Port Orford? Would we need an IGA agreement?
I think it's always best to have just some kind of agreement where we agree to get, if Port Orford's the lead agency working on the application, work with Park, I think we say we'll give Port Orford $500 towards their grant processing fees with Park. But for us to hire Park to help Port Orford is a little cart before the horse. I think we just need to work with them. Does that make sense, Dave?
They've asked me to talk,
yeah.
but I don't actually represent them. So we would, well, of course, need to talk to the city. of Port Orford
Them
first.
being Port Orford or them being Park?
Port Orford.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm
Park
sure
has
they
a
would
con-
love to help.
Yeah, no, and
Okay, wait.
if I'm
Go ahead, you-
understanding, it sounds like the board, I haven't heard any opposition to this idea. I just wanna make sure we do it right. If this is what the board wants to do, I wanna say, let's do it this way, that's
Okay.
all.
Next is Commissioner
I
Gold.
guess I have a couple of questions here. Has Park been hired by the city to do this? That
No.
you know of? Okay,
Not that I know
so
of.
we don't even know that they're hired yet, and this is gonna be under the city's purview to submit this grant, and are there other entities that would also put towards paying for this grant writing? And
I would have to defer to Court because this was your idea to use Park, right? You might have some sort of
Yeah,
connection with these
let me,
guys.
maybe I can help a little bit here. I have a letter from City Administrator Richards, who I've got to know well and think she does a super job. Just take a moment, if I may, Mr. Chair. Addressed all three commissioners, Port Orford Pinehurst kayak launch. Dear commissioners, I apologize for not coming before you in person to thank you for hearing and considering assisting the City of Port Orford acquire a grant writer for City of Port Orford acquire a grant writer for the proposed kayak launch with restrooms and parking. Port Orford has wanted to improve the Pinehurst boat ramp for many years. I believe this improvement, my apologies, will benefit Curry County as a whole by drawing kayakers to Curry County, as well as give safe access to Garrison Lake for non-motorized water activities. Since talking on the city recorder position in 2016 and being the city administrator's time does not allow for grant writing, the size of the, does that help? The size of the project is more than our volunteers want to take on. Hiring a grant writer is our only option. However, the city was not prepared to do that, and we appreciate any assistance you see fit. Now, Park Resources, yes, they want to build, as I said, want to keep or try and build a relationship with Curry County. They're willing to contribute some of their time. They do have a contract with the Port of Port Orford and come highly recommended. So it's $500. I think the way Council Huddle referenced it a minute ago is really ideal, that we'll just give the money as a support to the City of Port Orford, and then find out how can we help beyond that. And also, I wanted to just talk about Travel Southern Oregon Coast. When we did our Dine Out program, they donated $5,000 back to us to help Curry economic development. So the 500 contribution could very well shake loose on this Marine Board project. They're the key player here. Their enthusiasm, though, is quite encouraging. It might shake loose a $140,000 project. Am I correct on that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's a big opportunity for a small amount of money, and I put my time as an Oregon Coast Visitors Association employee to help write the grant as well, and then I'm almost positive we could get some money from Travel Southern Oregon Coast.
I have a comment on it, and my comment would be more toward Council Huddle and what he said. I think it would be inappropriate for the county to do this without having a more defined outline to it. So the way that Council Huddle has described this, you know, giving the money to Port Orford and they do the contract, that way there is transparency, and there's also, you know, I can't think of the words right now, but there's yeah,
I'm happy
we can
to work
track
with
the money, you know,
council
people
to
can
get
track the
something
money.
that makes sense for you guys to approve. That works.
Yeah, I think a motion at this point, if the board is supportive of the concept, would be to authorize, you know, $500 to be contributed to the city of Port Orford in the grant writing efforts on the, can't remember see the name of that street, but on the Pinehurst boat launch.
You're gonna be using that ramp someday.
We do have one.
I intend to.
We do have one public comment. David Barnes.
David Barnes. Not opposed to this project at all. I'm just not sure why we're back to, everything keeps coming back to trying to, for Commissioner Boyce to throw park money. The guy from Park spoke to us a month or so ago. He said he gets 38% of his grants. He failed on the one that he tried to get for Curry County for an emergency management vehicle. And I'm not sure why we're still entertaining them. There's other grant writers in this state who we could use. I think this is, once again, you know, I applaud the project, but if Travel Southern Oregon had $5,000 to give us for the dine-in program, they have money to pay for a grant writer, and I'm sure they have their own that they currently use. I don't know why we would want to inject park into this project after they've failed us in the past. Let Travel Southern Oregon do this, and, you know, they have the experience in this, they have the grant writers, and let them do it. If it doesn't, you know, there's no reason for us, we can write a letter of support, I believe in that, but throwing money towards something like this, I'm just tired of I'm tired of listening to suggestions that this county throw taxpayer money at these projects just because, you know, I'm tired of it. We don't have the money to be throwing around to people like that. And if Commissioner Boyce wants to come up with the 500 out of his own pocket, then fine, let him do that. But this isn't the right project. You know, we need the money that we have, and you know, there's other people who can spend their money who are better suited to do it than we are. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes.
I didn't know this would be controversial. I just heard Mr. Barnes say $500 for people like that. So I'm just processing that, and I want the public to know the amount of money that goes out of this building that I've been opposed to. This is such a drop in the bucket, and it's a way to bring people together, to bring communities together. It's a fabulous project. And Park Resources ends up being the issue. They're just going to shut the door sometimes. So if we have the commissioners, other commissioners have been working on this, or excuse me, working on grant writing that I've been pleading for 4 years. Maybe you have some ideas how we can move forward. I give you plenty of documentation on Park Resources and what their background is and their reputation. They've been in business for years and years. They come highly recommended by Gary Milliman from Brookings. He would not recommend unless they were solid in their results. So I'm going to make a motion to get this behind us.
We have one more.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Gold?
I would prefer sending a letter of support to Port Orford for this particular project, which I think is a worthy project. I don't think park should be anything part of that, and I don't think at this time it's a good idea for the county to be putting more money or putting money towards this at this time.
I have a question. How many hours do they estimate it'll take to write and fill this grant?
I can't answer that. I'm unfortunately not an experienced grant writer, Mr. Chair.
Okay. The reason that I'm asking that is that I'm guessing that the hours that it'll take to do this grant will be far in excess of $500. So am I to understand that anything over $500 they are going to basically cover?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So do we have a motion?
Make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we authorize $500 to the city of Port Orford to approve the Pinehurst kayak-only launch site that they can use, I think you probably want clarification here, but they can use for the support of this project, and I think that's a long enough motion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think, Council, we're gonna need to define that just a little bit. Would it be that we're authorizing payment to the city of Port Orford to procure a contract with Park for this grant?
Well, I didn't hear Commissioner Boyce say specifically Park, and it seemed like the Park was causing controversy. I think Port Orford could spend it for a grant writer as they see fit. But I think it would be, I think specific enough is that it would be a contribution of $500 to Port Orford's grant writing efforts on the Pinehurst boat launch or kayak launch project.
Specify
the project and the use, and we'll let them on their own determine what grant writer they use. Is that okay with the maker of the motion?
Yeah, and if I could offer the potential amendment, would you be more comfortable if it said a pledge, or?
Oh, I think, you know, the contribution's good enough. But
So my motion stands as is, please.
As stated by Council Huddle?
Yes.
Well, just clarified, sure.
Thank you.
Do I have a second? I'll second. Further discussion? Roll, please.
Commissioner Gold,
No.
Vice Chair Boyce,
Yes.
Chair Pash.
Aye.
Motion carried 2-1.
Next we have E, Curry County Board of Commissioners request for agenda sequence amendment. Commissioner Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You saw, thank you, Mr. Lacy, by the way. You put a lot of time into this, too. You saw Roadmaster Christensen sit here for 2 hours or 2.5 hours. Sometimes the sheriff is backed up. Other department heads are here several hours, or are here, you know, an hour or two waiting. So that's one thing that I would think we could possibly do on our amended agenda. As far as the commissioner comments, for years we had that at the front part of the agenda. Somewhat sensitive to Ms. Rose concerns. Could be after public comment. The reason they had it in the beginning, in the past, is that you know, we each one of us costs the taxpayers about $96,000 a year in base salary and wages. So to take the responsibility to verify the amount of work that we're doing, whether people think it's political to present that and fulfill that responsibility, really isn't our call. What is our call and responsibility, obligation, is to let the people know what we do in a given week. And so that's why I did this. Also, even more so, all the boards I've served on in the past, there's always a chance to declare a possible conflict of interest, so the public knows, we're aware that we might need to recuse ourselves, or we might, you know, just to state that. So I think that's part of a potential agenda update as we soon leave 2020. And I think that's all I have for now. I think this is solid. Ms. Rose said that there's a 5-minute limit on commissioners. I've never heard or seen that, and I wouldn't support that for a second, of course. And maybe I misunderstood her. But that's all I have for now. And excuse me, the director's update. The financial report. I still don't know where we are financially. You know, there's some real questions there, and I'm not pointing a finger. I'm not saying that we have some huge concerns or issues, but I think that should be added, and I think the public needs to know that we are watching every penny and not just talking about it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I have a couple comments on this. I personally think the commissioner updates, director updates are better left where they are. My biggest question I have for this is, well, not question, but it's a statement. Conflicts of interest. When we have an agenda, when we ask for amendments to the agenda, if you have a conflict with the Southern Coast Business Employment Corporation, when we say, any amendments to the agenda, at that point is normally where board members or anyone in the room states that they have a conflict, and it is duly noted from that point. So conflicts, I think, could be brought up at an agenda item or a discussion action item. Or if you have a workshop, it can be brought up at the workshop prior to ever having the meeting. Financial report. I think by this board approving OpenGov, who is moving forward very, very swiftly, by the way, and hopefully to go live here in the next month or so. You will have all the financial information and financial reporting that you want at your fingertips on a daily basis. You will have the county budget on your screen, as will every member of the public in this county. They will be able to go on the county website and have within 24 hours, it will update every night when we shut down. It will update for the next morning exactly the financial status of this county, where every department spends their money, how it is spent, not only on employees, but on whatever business they are doing. It will also show the employees that are employed through the county, a lot of that kind of information. So as far as a financial report, I think you will be very pleased in the coming months on what you'll see through OpenGov that will be at your fingertips, at your computer every day. So I don't imagine that would be something that we would need on our agenda. Should the treasurer would like to come in at any particular time and discuss the financial report or the financial status of the county, or our hopeful new finance director, I'm completely open to that. So I don't know if we would need that as a weekly agenda item, though.
Well, it's going to be twice a month.
Well, okay, bi-weekly.
Yes,
Again, you're
not
going to have
quarterly
this
with you,
report.
but-
You're going to have this report at your fingertips at a daily basis, though, in a couple of months.
But I want to hear from the people, just personally. I don't want the responsibility of having to go through a line-by-line deal. I want to know that the person we're hiring and paying $120,000 a year is basically going to be able to come to the board and talk to the public and say, here's where we are, folks. Here's exactly where we are. I don't want to leave it up to the public to have to go do their own research. That's what we're paid to do, in my opinion. So as far as the declaration of potential conflicts of interest, the 4 years I've been here, we've never had this option. And I can tell you, in 2018, one or two conflicts of interest when it came to attorneys. I won't go into it today, but it was huge. And it was, I think, shameful. And I couldn't get help. Couldn't get help to block it. So that's a little bit why, and I just want to emphasize, Mr. Chair, that other boards I've served on and recognize it is our moral obligation to look to the public and say, no, I don't have any conflicts here. If you don't bring it up, that's fine, but it's something that other boards do. If the board doesn't agree, we could put it off till later.
And I fully agree with you on that point. What I'm all I'm saying is, if it's something that is an agenda item, you're going to want to bring that up anyway because it's an agenda item. That was my point to that. Commissioner Gold?
I would not be opposed to having a line on the agenda to begin with. Are there any commissioners with conflicts of interest before we even start? But other than that, changing the whole order here, having the commissioner comments updates first, I disagree with that. Certainly it's simply because there are employees that are here waiting, and I know sometimes commissioner comments go on and on, so personally, I'm opposed to it.
Counsel?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I've seen conflict of interest typically be handled when the actual item itself comes up. And the one reason for that is in the minutes then, that if you have a conflict of interest declared at the very beginning and then you're looking through the minutes and you're looking for the item, usually to have the conflict with the item is standard protocol. It's very normal, especially in the land use context when you are acting in a quasi-judicial capacity. And typically, there is a question at the beginning of the land use saying, are there any ex parte communication or conflicts of interest? So, and then further, conflicts of interest legally has a very particular meaning, and so I would prefer just to handle them on a case-by-case basis when the item comes up versus at the beginning to go through every item and see if you have a conflict of interest. So that's just my 2 cents on that one particular subcategory of this conversation.
And to that,
I just agree with Council Huddle.
to that point, another point might be if you're serving on a board of let's say, another organization, and we're talking about something that all of a sudden that other organization gets drug into that agenda item, at that point, I mean, there again, it's a case-by-case thing that you would say, well, wait a minute, I'm on the board that you're beginning to bring something in, and I might have a conflict on that. So it alerts at the time, and again, I as previously stated, the minutes would reflect that, and I think that would protect the county. Council?
Thanks. The other idea of staff time saving, I have seen the board actually during the agenda amendment process itself, if they look at the agenda and say, well, we're gonna have a presentation, can we move, you know, the sheriff up so they can get back to work? Or you guys have done that on a case-by-case basis for those type of staff time saving. So I think you have the mechanisms in place to accomplish a lot of the goals. All respect, Commissioner Boyce, but I'm not sure that just reorganizing our whole presentation of meetings, again, that's up to the board to decide. You can do it, and Commissioner Boyce has said it's happened before, so it is a board discretion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I think we could, and I'm just as guilty, but I think we could be a little improved on rearranging that at the beginning to get the department heads and other elected officials their chance to talk, if they're not able or not interested in staying for the rest of the meeting. So, not pointing a finger there either, but I think we could improve on that. Just my opinion.
We have a public comment from Mr. Barnes.
Doesn't he have the public comment, excuse me, doesn't he have that at the beginning, or is it just, how does that work here?
How, actually, when I used to do public comments in the beginning, the board asked to have the public comments be brought out on the actual topic. Now, I know Mr. Barnes has been limited to 3 minutes and of public comment. So we are finishing this. He told me, as he handed me his public comments at the beginning of the meeting, that all three combined would be less than 3 minutes, so I'm guessing this is going to be very brief. But we've always, since I've been sworn on this board, been asked to allow public comment after our conversation on an agenda item, to let, if there was anybody in the public. I remember with the Flores Lake thing, there was many people that commented after our discussion, to allow them to come in and comment on what we thought.
So that might need to be included in this as a change. I'm very much in favor of public comment, so, and always have been. I got a good record there, but maybe that needs to be public comment one spot, and then the public knows that you may not be limited just to the very first part of the agenda.
Thank you,
Thank
David
you.
Barnes. I'd like to point out, probably 16 or 18 months ago, I came to this board and I asked for a second public comment period to be put on the agenda, one at the beginning and one at the end, much like they do in other places. I know the hospital board has multiple times after each topic they have a public comment session availability. But I'd like to talk about this, what we're talking about today. It says this current agenda sequence delays, this is directly from the ARS in the first block on the bottom. Sequence delays can require the public to wait until the end of the CCC meetings. That subsequently can result in a loss of interest. The public speaks at the beginning of the meetings, where this new proposed scheduling puts public comments almost dead last in the meeting. So yes, public will lose interest in staying through all of this. If we were still getting commissioner reports instead of just commissioner comments, I wouldn't be opposed to hearing, I might not be opposed to hearing them earlier, but we don't get commissioner reports anymore. What we get is comments. We get meetings we attended, the important people that were there, we see pictures, but we don't know what these groups are doing. You know, we don't know, if somebody is out on a fire commission meeting. It's about all the people who were there at the meeting, but there's nothing about what's happening to reduce ground fuels in Curry County. There's nothing about what's happening to sell off, to promote forest sales. All we get is we get comments. You know, I'd like to get reports from the commissioners. That's something that I'd like to see. You know, I went to a meeting of ABC. This is what ABC discussed. I don't care who was there. None of us do. You know, but that's really, you know, if the goal is to be important and have the public hear this, then you want to have the public needs to speak first. That you work for us. You know, we shouldn't be made to sit around and you know, it's my choice if I want to sit around and listen to commissioner comments at the end. You know, it shouldn't be thrust upon me, and I shouldn't have to spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of my time until you get to that part of the meeting. And I just want to point that out. You know, I agree with what Mary Rose said before fully, and I hope you don't change things. Thank you.
Okay. Except, I heard him say reports, so I had written updates reports, and I left comments off, so we could, but I don't think I'm going to get a vote on this today. So we could, in the future, we could include commissioner updates, reports, comments. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So you have a motion? This is an action item.
Oh, I'll make a motion, sure, that we change. No, I think that with the ideas, hearing you present some things, some not concerns, but some different opinions. I'm not ready to make a motion on this because I have some different things that I think could be added and would be beneficial. You just heard public comment that might be certainly worth considering. So I'm going to drop this agenda item. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All
no
right.
motion.
Next, we're moving on to G, appointing.
Did we overlook item 7F on the contract extension?
I thought you said you wanted to withdraw that earlier.
No. No, Commissioner Gold did, I think, but I
asked for it to be withdrawn.
And you approved the changes.
No, if I could.
Okay.
Thank you. There was so much debate at that point. I believe Commissioner Pash, you said, let's just leave it on and
oh,
just
you're right.
handle
You're
it on
right.
the
You
merits,
are right.
so.
No. So I'm sorry.
No worries.
I inadvertently scratched it off my list. Sorry. Nothing intended. All right, so Curry Boy Scope contract agreement extension with Walt and Sheila Meekins, camp hosts. Commissioner Boyce?
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. I'm looking for, I really don't need any audio visual aids. You know, this is a pretty glowing report. And there's been, there's been a lot of controversy, for goodness sakes, that these people are my good friends. I want the public to know that my support for them has nothing to do with our friendship. And shouldn't. And so, did I hear something from the audience? Yeah. I'm sure I heard something. So, Walt Meekins, I want the public to know that I wouldn't have been able to pick him out of a crowd of 4. The last time I saw them was at Foster Bar in 2002, the last year they were hosts there. And so, and even if they were good friends, I'm not recused from trying to fill important roles and positions in this county. So, here's the bottom line, and we debated it a little bit earlier in the meeting, the beginning of the meeting. The truth is, I'll go back to the friendship thing, they become good friends, or they become friends. And if their characterization is, Commissioner Boyce is a good friend, I don't care. I have a lot of good friends that might only be good acquaintances. It's a different definition. We're all products of our environment. The bottom line is these are good people. They've done a good job. And they're sitting here on the 23rd of September, and their contract has not been handled, in my opinion, and they want to stay the winter. They've got us through a rough time. They didn't get there till July 24th. We had issues with Camp Post. You know, there was issues that they're going to be paid. You know, I don't engage myself in a lot of that, except to say that they want to stay the winter. They want to move to temporarily to Space 18 so they can their motorhome can be protected from the elements a little bit. I told you earlier today I got letters of support that they've done a good job. The neighbors around saying they're doing a good job. And so all I'm asking is to extend their contract through 2021 and keep them interested and keep them respected and keep them appreciated. Again, the information speaks for itself. These are good people. You know, they're very experienced. They have an excellent background. and they have done a very good job. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
This is not about people or personalities to me, it's about the process. And about process, I made asking about what was the process you used in getting employees. Never once did they say that the process was to have a commissioner tell them or recommend employees for them to hire. I contacted Tony, or excuse me, Mr. DeRock, and asked him about, and maybe you might want to come forward, Tony. I asked him about what was his plan for the Meekins. Is that correct pronunciation?
Yes.
Okay, and what is your plan, so we know?
Anthony DeRock, Parks Coordinator for Curry County. I'm unsure of why this was even brought and amended onto the agenda to begin with. I'm already fully in control of what was going on with said camp host and already dealing with other issues with the amended contract. The contract was amended as mentioned for alterations of payment because they initially signed on a contract for no payment with there being 2 hosts on site. Well, one of the hosts ended up leaving them as the only host at Boys Cove Park. Therefore, we looked into amending the contract to allow them to receive a stipend. This contract was amended and produced to them September 1st, I believe it was, and then it took the actual camp host until mid to end of just last week to finalize signature of the amended contract that was produced to them in the beginning of the month. I won't go into detail about that right now, but their current contract was a temporary contract, and it was to go until October 1st, I believe it was. And we are not at that point yet, but I was already on top of procuring or producing another contract because it still hasn't met the deadline of the first one. And the person involved with that would be the Director of Operations, Julie Smelzer, as she has the authority to create said contract. And my intentions with the contract currently that I already had plans in place of dealing with is when she returns on Monday, have another contract produced that will pretty much state that we will renew it for, say, another 3 months and then bring it up for review once again 2021, January. That's my intentions currently.
Okay.
Not to renew it for over a year until October 2021. That's not my intentions as the department head overseeing parks and my volunteer hosts.
And I think it's important that once we have directors of these departments, that we honor their recommendations and not interfere unless there's some definite problem. So I support you in what you're doing, and I think it's important for the commission to support you in what you're doing simply because by interfering, we set a precedent about interfering in all of our various departments, and that bothers me greatly.
I completely agree.
Commissioner Boyce, do you have any comments? So, Commissioner Gold, you used the word interfere twice, so I'm going to give you a chance to clarify that, and then I'll have some questions. That's all for now, Mr. Chair.
Okay, by interfering, we have given the job as Director of Parks to Mr. DeRock, and we allow him to make decisions. If he makes decisions that are poor decisions, then we need to go through the chain of command as far as taking care of those. His direct supervisor is Ms. Schmelzer. After that, myself, since I'm the park liaison, and I think it's important that we go through this chain of command. Otherwise, everything's just willy-nilly and disorganized. So,
Willy-nilly, okay, I guess I have some.
excuse my word,
Yeah.
disorganized. We'll
Yeah,
just-
well, I'm offended by that because you've only been Parks liaison, replacing me for what, 10 days? And so you're forming some conclusions, making some assumptions that I don't think are wise at all. So, Mr. Chair, if I may, Mr. Durock, while you're here, what happened to why did the other park hosts leave? The one couple that, I'm sorry, forgetting their name, but how long were they there and why did they leave, as best you can characterize?
They were there for, I believe, 3 months or more. And I would also like to point out that Sheila Meekins, as the current volunteer host, hasn't even been there 2 months. We haven't even quite arrived on 2 months yet, but the previous hosts were there for, I believe, 3 months, and there were multiple issues. The significant other of the hired host had a compromised immune system, and with COVID being an issue as they came on as host, he had potentially, not saying that he got COVID, but he had got sick because of the windy conditions or what have you. People get sick, and that, to the best of my knowledge, amongst communication issues with the new host that was brought on.
I'm not following you, forgive me.
Okay, so just to break it down a little bit more simpler, in order to benefit the hosts at Boys Cove Park, I initiated for there to be 2 hosts on site to relieve duties and to allow time off, you know, to benefit both parties. When Meekins was brought on, there was an issue with communication and working together with the primary camp host at Boys Cove, and that arose an issue. But the reasoning behind them leaving wasn't completely the other new secondary host. It was more so health-related issues what caused them to leave. And I believe that they had stated that to commissioners, either in person or potentially in writing as well.
Who's they again that stated that the other, I had no communication with the original host, and did you hire them? I think you did. I'm not sure.
Well, see, that's I can clarify that as well. So, the host, when I first started, there was Ron Ketchum. He left. There was already a panel interview in place to bring on another camp host. And a panel interviewed the potential host that applied. We decided on a specific host, and same thing occurred when we interviewed Sheila Meekins as well. So it's both times it's been a panel interview.
Okay, do you feel like the Meekins have done a good job for you?
That's not why I'm here today.
Well, it would be important, wouldn't it, to determine what their future is at that park?
Well, that's I'm already dealing with that. That's why I'm unsure of why your involvement of bringing all this forward and using taxpayers' money and things of that nature, using the commissioner's time to address these issues that don't directly involve you. This is stuff that was already in place and already being dealt with. Had there been any communication with myself directly, I could have provided that to you. I could have told you that the contract was already in place.
So you're not going to commit, sir, that they've done a good job for you?
Commissioner, he was talking.
I was talking.
Yeah,
Me.
I'm already offended by you telling me how to do my job and
I'm
that
not
I've
telling you.
interfered. Okay, let's.
I'm not
Point
telling
of
you how
order.
to do
Point
your
of order.
job.
Continue.
I was just simply stating that I was already on top of dealing with the contract issue. As I had mentioned, the contract was amended in the beginning September 1st. It took the camp host almost 3 weeks, about 3 weeks, to sign the contract because they were refusing to fill out the W-9 and then they were refusing to sign the contract. We brought it back to them. They signed it, they filled out the W-9, but then they chose to write all kinds of information all over the contract, which arose another issue to where I had to produce another contract and bring it out to them for them to sign it again without them writing all kinds of inappropriate information on said contract about things pertaining to Site 18 after October 1st when they're writing it on a contract that ends October 1st.
So these folks, may I ask, they should have got a lawyer? Is that what you're recommending?
Counsel is right here. I don't know what you're referring to, but...
Well, they wrote things on the contract that you didn't approve of, okay? I don't agree that they refused to fill out a W-9. The reason they resisted to the contract, Mr. Durock, is because they were going to be asked to leave on October 1st. Basically kicked to the curb, I think they would try and explain to you. Totally confused on why they would be treated that way. And now, in addition, you're saying you're only going to give them till what, January? And then you're going to leave them in incognito, or excuse me, influx, that they're not going to be able to stay the entire winter, and the park's going to be exposed to, or maybe you want to find somebody else to replace them. I don't know. I'll ask.
There already is currently a job posting listed for another host. I do intend on having 2 hosts in that park. And I had never said anything about closing or removing any hosts from Boys Cove Park.
Well, the contract did, sir.
No, it was a temporary contract. It was a contract that you approved personally. The Board of Commissioners approved it. It was a temporary contract. As you had stated, they came in at the end of July. I believe it was the 24th or 27th. And it was a temporary contract until October 1st. We have yet to still arrive to October 1st. And the person in authority to deal with said contract isn't currently here. So I believe that there is...
If I may, that's the reason it's on the agenda today, because we're down to 7 days. They think they should have to be out by the 1st. What's the and related to that, Mr. Durock, what is the last correspondence? What was the basis of that you had with them? Did it in any way recommend or reference the contract so that you could give them a little bit of peace of mind?
The last time... can you repeat that? I'm trying to...
So the last correspondence you had with them, did it in any way give them a peace of mind and reference the contract, that you're in fact working on it, and you want to keep them through the winter, you want to give them that option, you understand the safety issues, for goodness sakes, the vandalism at Cape Blanco? These people have done you a good job, and they feel like they're being kicked to the curb, and they want to stay the winter. They've offered to. They want to start over and build a relation, and they're saying, hey, we only got a week. Do we have to move?
Nobody has told them that they had to move.
The contract does.
No,
the contract does.
Like I said, we are dealing with this.
Okay.
You know,
how have you communicated to them, sir?
I have communicated with them countlessly. I was there this week. I was just there. I was just at the park.
And you told them that...
There was no concern amongst her with the contract. There was no mention of it. And prior to her just finally submitting the signed contract last week, I was out there earlier in the week providing her with the additional W form information. And at that point in time, I was assuming that she was going to provide me with the contract that probably should have been signed 2 weeks prior to that.
Which put them out on October 1st. So
that was the initial contract that was signed.
Okay.
In July to October.
You're telling me there's an amended contract since the one that we signed on July 24th. You say there's a new contract that you've put before them.
It's just an amended contract.
What are the dates, sir?
It's the same dates.
The same dates, leave on October 1st.
From the original contract. I don't understand what your huge concern is with this. Nobody has ever said that they were going to leave.
Nobody's ever told them they could stay. Nobody's ever encouraged them. I believe the facts will bear that out.
and I'm sorry.
What facts?
The facts that you're presenting today.
That
Where's
I-
the amended contract, Mr. DeRock? That
Is
shows
to your
deference.
concern? Does that directly relate to your position?
The handling
I
of the-
believe that's my job.
The respect, I know what you think your job is. I know what you think
Oh,
of
I
the commissioner's
think-
job.
Point of
is,
order.
okay?
Point of order.
So, where's the contract, and where is the encouragement for them that you're working to try and get them to be able to stay the winter, and that they have first shot at next year? I know you have a public notice that you're looking for another host. I'm concerned the way they've been treated from the very beginning that it might be to replace them, and I'm not going to accept that. If in fact that's true.
Well, and I need to say that's his prerogative to replace them if he chooses. That's why we employ a parks coordinator. That is his job, in my opinion. For the record, you've made some statements, and I just want to make sure for the record, are you in direct contact with these people?
Absolutely, I am, and you should be too. You should get to know them. You should learn all the commissioners in this case, the way these people have been handled from the very beginning, because they were my friends. Okay, there's plenty of documentation. I'm not forming conclusions. I'm just a little bit protective of who they of their job. Has nothing to do with any friendships. It has to do with these are people that have done a good job for this county, and there's no contract to encourage them to stay.
If I may, just one more comment.
Well, Commissioner Gold wanted to make another comment.
That's okay. I think we need to stay in our lanes. We have given you confidence as a park director to do your job, and I think it's important that we allow you to do that. It sounds like you are dealing with this issue, and we need to allow you to do so.
Thank you.
Counsel?
Thank you. Yeah, and really to try to abstract this out into larger picture concepts of roles, Commissioner Gold is correct. In the past, the board had approved park host contracts. But in the recent past, after Director Schmelzer came on board, she was given authority to approve park host contracts. And so currently, it is between the parks coordinator and the director of operations to approve or disapprove or extend or what have you park host contracts. In the big picture scheme of things, what it sounds like Commissioner Boyce would prefer is that the Board of Commissioners take back that authority. And then if looking at this one, it looks like he feels like the Board of Commissioners should decide this one, but I think the Board of Commissioners, we're not at the point to do that yet because the contract expires October 1st. The writings they put on the contract that was offered to them is technically legally called a counteroffer. It's not an acceptance. It sounds like they countered some terms that were not accepted. And so we are left with the October 1 deadline where their time will be up as camp hosts. And when the Director of Operations gets back here, she'll be able to handle that as she sees fit, as the board has delegated to her. And then, the board will have to decide what the next steps are at that point. But legally, the contract expires October 1st. They won't be camp hosts anymore until after October 1st, unless there's a new contract or an extension put in place by the Director of Operations upon her return. Unless the board votes to take back park host contracts.
If I may, in regards to what Huddle just stated, I just want to clarify that the amended contract was just an alteration to the contract to allow the current camp host to receive a stipend, to receive a payment. There was no alteration to the dates. The dates still remain the same.
Yep.
And there was just slight alterations to the verbiage of the contract. And then also, question for Commissioner Boyce. You had just stated that you definitely have direct contact with the current camp host, correct? Sheila Meekins?
Yes.
And did you have consistent and direct contact with the previous camp host?
Yes.
What were their names?
Oh, no, excuse me, the ones you lost at the first part of the year? Or, excuse me, the first part of the summer? I don't remember their names, but the one that had immune issue, I think you just said?
Yeah.
No, I had no contact with them at all.
Okay, yeah.
But the first, as far as Ron Ketchum, yeah, absolutely. I've had considerable contact with him.
Yeah.
And I will, as an elected public official, I think that the citizens will say, regardless what the liaison position is, that's not illegal. That's a responsibility. So until, I'll ask you a couple questions. What was the basis for the last correspondence that you had with them?
The last interactions I had.
No, the last correspondence. Did you?
Regarding what?
The longevity of them staying. I think we're going to beat a dead horse here. There's no contract amended, that these people have been presented. It's 7 days before they have to leave. I think that's a deplorable of how we would treat them. And I'm told that, well, I'm on it, I'm getting on it, and maybe you are, but they're not seeing that. And so, yeah, my job is oversight. My job is to protect them and any other employees that may not be getting the best deal, to hear them out and determine. I tried to talk to you about this, that didn't work, and so here we are.
I would just like to clarify that Director of Operations has been gone. It's almost 2 weeks now. She will return on Monday. And I had already mentioned on the record that I just received the amended contract back from the current camp host at the mid to end of just last week. The amended contract that was provided to them September 1st. So,
was it from a legal?
I am currently working on the new contract that will be dealt with come Monday, when the person of the authority to write said contract is present.
Okay.
So yes, it is being dealt with, and it will be dealt with.
And you're going to let them stay part of the winter?
My intentions as of right now is to create another contract for, say, another 3 months, and then we can reevaluate our situation come 2021 January.
So if your evaluation doesn't work well, then they're going to be leaving in the middle, worst part of the winter. Do you think they deserve that?
I can't speak on the future. I'm speaking on right now. What my intentions
And what
are.
kind of future is that for them if you speak on it right now? Did you work to get them a stipend?
Point of order. Point of order.
Did you work to get them a stipend the moment they got there, in fairness?
Well, no, because the contract that they signed initially, the temporary contract, said that there would be no stipend for the current camp host or the secondary. They were considered the secondary when they came on. And the contract stated, and there was a new contract provided to the camp hosts, Javon and Denise.
Thank you for those names.
Yes, they were provided a new contract saying that they wouldn't receive a stipend. Sheila Meekins agreed and signed the contract stating that she wasn't going to receive a stipend either. So then the contract got amended and issued September 1st that made it so Sheila Meekins could receive a stipend. And yes, I was the one that agreed to allow them to receive said stipend because they were the only host there. And it seemed fair for them to receive it if they were the only host there. But the stipulations were, as soon as another host comes on, then the stipend goes away because the other host isn't going to receive a stipend either.
Okay, so...
It has been fair across the board.
Okay, one more question. Do you think, I'm going to ask you again, do you feel like they've done a good job for Curry County in that part?
I don't feel that this is the appropriate time to address.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So do you have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we amend the contract and the board be involved in the implementation of that with the Meekins to go through September 21st, 2020 with all the language corrected and so that all parties can be protected and encouraged.
Do I have a second?
Question. You said through September 21st, 2020.
Whoops, I'm looking at the wrong date. My apologies. Through September 30th. That would give them 1 year of security.
We're in
basically.
2020 right now, aren't we?
He just said, he amended it. He said 2021.
Did he? Oh,
But thanks for catching.
I thought he said September 21st.
I did, but then I changed it September 30th, 2021.
Thank you. Okay, now I understand.
I know they'll do an incredible job.
Do I have a second? Without a second, the motion fails. Moving on to G, appointing a Fair Board member to fill a vacancy due to a resignation with term expiring on December 21st. As we know, we've had a Fair Board member resign, and we have two candidates for that position. I don't know if I want to mention their names on in public here. Oh, I guess
Mr.
we
Chair?
should.
Yeah, their names we can mention. There's
Okay.
certain personal information that gets redacted.
Okay, Jessica Carlson and Frank Jerome have applied for the appointment. So we have, yes.
I meant to ask on agenda amendments if we could just clarify how we're going to vote. We've been trying to do this on a.
Well, and I was
what's the
going to
term?
give you that.
Huh?
I was going to give you how
Thank
we were
you.
going to vote on this.
I'll stand down. I appreciate it.
So we have Jessica Carlson, and we've all looked at their applications, I'm guessing. We also have an application here for Frank Jerome. I just want to make sure that we understand that Ms. Carlson will not be available until November. We will also be having a couple of more board seats coming due in January, which I'm sure we will be getting new applicants for. So I thought if we would, to vote, all of us fill out a, how about if I give you one of these? 1 second, Miss Summer.
Voting for one, correct?
Miss Madison, go ahead.
If I may, I believe it was Mr. Jerome that submitted the statement that he would not be local to Curry and able to participate in person until November. I may be incorrect.
Well, I'm looking at a handwritten note, and it's not, it looked to me like it was attached under, well, the respectfully, and then the name is blocked out, so.
So I was able to review that prior to the redaction, and I believe that was Mr. Jerome's submission.
Okay.
What I was hoping is that we might be able to offer to Mr. Jerome, because he won't be able to attend or participate in meetings until sometime in November, probably December, is that we ask if he would consider applying for positions that open in January, eligible for applicants in December. At that time, there will actually be 3 positions that will be open on the Fair Board.
That's
and then
why I
he'll
brought
be here
that
in
up.
person. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, since I noticed it, is that at no point in the application for a board or committee does the application ask if you are a resident of Curry County. And so we might want to consider updating that application to ask that question if it's legal.
All right, thank you. So what I would like to do, now that that's been clarified, it is not, so forgive me on that, you know, I knew she worked at the hospital, I just thought maybe she had left for a time. So it is not Ms. Carlson, that is not going to be here till November. It is Mr. Jerome. So what I would like to do is for a vote on this, we will, I hate to label things, but we will label Ms. Carlson as number 1 and Mr. Jerome as number 2. If you would write a 1 or 2 on your slip and then hand them Council Huddle, if you would, please.
Clarification, please, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Sounds like we're going to maybe get a chance to vote for Mr. Jerome again in January?
There's a possibility,
if
yes,
he
if we
applies.
don't vote for him here.
If he applies.
Okay.
I have 2 tabs. Is there a third?
Third?
Oh, thank you. I have my voter witness here.
Can he count to 3?
Well, 3 was not an option, so.
Oh, okay.
It was
Well,
1 or
might
2.
be.
Yeah. There's no hanging chads here. So we have 3 votes for
We're looking
number
at the
1.
next Secretary of State.
I didn't hear you.
3
you
votes for
interrupted.
3 votes for number 1.
Okay. All right. So it is here ordered that Jessica Carlson will be the replacement board member for the Curry County Fair Board. Moving on, appoint a planning commissioner, central position member, Ms. Crockett. Good morning.
Hi. Almost lunchtime.
Yes, ma'am.
There are two people who have applied for the central position membership on the Planning Commission. It's always exciting to get somebody who wants to be interested in pursuing that committee appointment, as it is a difficult position, and we have a wonderful commission, but it's a big commitment. The two people that applied are Curry Hamrell and Brent Thompson. I do have a recommendation for Curry Hamrell to take that position, in part because it looks like Brent is on another board at this time. Curry Hamrell, I've talked to her. Her background is in architecture, and she works for a company that represents Taco Bell development across the country and in Canada. She has a lot of experience in dealing with regulatory issues for development, so I think she'd be a wonderful asset to the Planning Commission.
Do we have any comments? So again, for this, I'm sure we've looked at both of their applications, and again, I would like to proceed the same way as we did on our last one. Ms. Hamill will be number 1. Mr. Thompson will be number 2. Handing out the sticky notes. There you go. It's the new way, the sticky note ballot.
Vote by Pony Express.
Here you are, Council.
Thank you. There were 3 votes for number 1.
All right, so Kim Hamill is hereby, it's the order of this board to appoint Kim Hamill.
Could we get a
for the Planning Commission position.
Director,
that will expire April 1st of 23. Commissioner Boyce.
I'm sorry. Can we get a proper pronunciation of her full name, please? Director Crockett.
Hamrell. I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing it. It's Kim Hamrell.
What is it? Carrie or Kim? Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Kim on the order. Oh,
We'll
you're
fix
right.
that.
It's Carrie.
Oh,
You are correct,
All right.
Commissioner Boyce.
No worries.
It says Kim
Gotta
on
clarify.
the order, so
we'll get that fixed.
We'll correct the order to say Carrie Hamrell.
No worries.
Hope I didn't murder the last name. All right, next we have commissioner updates. We have about 12 minutes. I don't know if we can make it, but if not, I guess we can stay over a few minutes and then come back after lunch for executive session. So Commissioner Gold.
I have a couple of things. I've been working on getting the buses a new home that Curry Transit is going to be giving to nonprofit organizations, and one of those buses is going to be going to the Homeless Coalition, and the other bus is going to Gold Beach School District, which is good, and I'm going to get more information out about those. So they will be well used, I'm sure. Another thing I am bringing before the board is an email that I received from a constituent giving praise. She said, "We are aware that public officials often only hear from their constituent taxpayers when there are problems or complaints. In hopes of encouraging a change or more balanced communications, we would appreciate it if our underappreciated and frequently financially depleted road department could be publicly acknowledged and thanked. Several years ago, repaving on Dooley Creek Road resulted in the county's purchase of a roadway which was outside of their designated right-of-way. This ultimately resulted in an area of fairly significant erosion, causing a curb effect at the end of the pavement and beginning of our gravel road. After communications with Richard Christensen, Roadmaster, we are very pleased to let you know and to thank him and his crew for the excellent repair job completed this week. So I think it's important that we let people know of some good things that are happening here in the county. And one last thing, I'm continuing to work with the Gold Beach Community Center to obtain a grant for Meals on Wheels. They're doing good works over there, and I've been impressed with what's going on there. That's the end of my report.
I just have two quick things. First is OpenGov. I've been attending a lot of the meetings with them, and I'm excited to see OpenGov come in. There's a lot of really good points that are going to be made through that. I think it will expedite a lot of the things that is required to properly be transparent in the county, showing our finances and exactly where everything is spent as previously stated. I also think it'll be a huge help for moving forward with doing our budgets to each department head. And we see mistakes get made occasionally, and I think this is another good part to this software program is helping to find those mistakes and alert if and when there are mistakes. So there's been some of that talked about this week, and I'm excited to see it go in its first stage of going live. I believe we go somewhat live in a not an open live, but it's a confined live, and start making the actual entries into the system in the next week or so. One more thing I wanted to comment on is all the private pilots nationwide. I'm a private pilot, and I've been one for about 35 years, that fly around this country right now, and everyone always says, well, they're just so selfish. I want to say that there have been hundreds of private pilots in the past couple of weeks during all these fires, taking their own planes, their own fuel, their own time to deliver PPE, food, water, all sorts of resources, including firefighters, including whatever they're given permission to haul in their airplanes into areas that a lot of people don't even want to consider flying into, at their own expense and at their own risk. So I want to applaud the private pilots that have taken of their own time and resources to fly around the West Coast into Washington, Oregon, California, and the likes thereof to deliver whatever resources are needed in those areas that have been so decimated with destruction. So I just want to appreciate that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to congratulate Mr. Matt Hall on his 4th newspaper. The Coquille Sentinel has a tremendous tradition and history, and I just think that's good for all of Southwest Oregon, so way to go. I want to bring up the fire map here real quick, maybe. All of us have driven this Highway 199 many times, and I wish I could enlarge a little bit. But basically, I just want to say, here's what the Forest Service and Oregon Department of Forestry are doing their firefighting. This is the community of Takilma that's surrounded here with a tremendous defense line. It's not a drive-through like you would think Agnes or something like that, but it is just a lot of homes on the hillside. And same thing here, we're all familiar with O'Brien. They have really put a good defense perimeter around that, and I was concerned that they weren't going to get that done in time. You know, we're supposed to get a huge rain today. That didn't happen, but I'm just really happy. Worked very hard with the Josephine County Commissioners, 2 of the 3, and then 1 Delaware County Supervisor to get Highway 199 open. Very important for both counties, needless to say. But this fire is 140, well, it's over 150,000 as of this morning, or would be. It's growing about 1,500, 2,000 acres per day. A lot of prime timber in here. Not to be insensitive or to forget, little community of Happy Camp lost 155 homes. It's just unbelievably tough to try and process that. So you'll see some activity when you go back and forth to Medford. You know, we keep working on our PILT responsibilities. I'll interrupt real quick here. So proud to get a map. The reason I put Jim's picture back up here, he loved Coos County, he loved Curry County. He was the Wild Rivers Coast Alliance funding manager for Bandon Dunes, and just got a thank you note and a poster I wanted everybody to see. And the reason I want to highlight this is because their success in this U.S. Amateur Championship, despite everything they had to deal with, was tremendous. And there's a lot of residual for Curry County, and it brings Curry County closer together. You know, Pacific Gales, we're watching them slowly but surely move forward, and I always thought golf was going to be something that was a passing thing, but I'm learning that is not the case. So I was just proud to get this thank you and the poster, and I don't know where it is now. I wanted to offer the PILT letter, and this is to the Oregon delegation, which of course is Congressman DeFazio. That's a different letter. Basically, what I want the citizens to know is that our best bet comes back to the Wyden-Crapo bill, Senate Bill 1643, which is the endowment, but basically through, and I think you might have sat in on the call, Commissioner Pash, thank you. But basically, it's letting the world know that the counties are dependent on that payment in lieu of tax money, and basically doing away with SRS over time and bringing, when we can't charge for the land, which in the case of Curry County is 64, 5, 6% is nationally owned or publicly owned, you know, that is money we cannot tax on. And so now's not the time to have the PILT system go quietly. I won't read the letter, but this is one from AOC that was just absolutely outstanding. Oh, here's the PILT letter. It's basically asking for full mandatory funding for the payments in lieu of taxes, and it's a challenge to all of them, and I hope it brings results. Getting to know the new Southwest Oregon field representative for Senator Merkley, and McCarthy remains the top person for Senator Wyden in our area. Anyway, I won't read this, but this is just, if the public is interested, what AOC's position is on wildland firefighting, what the future holds, what it's done to our natural resources, the 4,000 homes total that we lost in this state, all the above. I mean, it's just going to take so long to come back and build back, and so we have to roll up our sleeves, be on our toes, and I'm not promoting AOC here except to say I did not anticipate, I don't think very many commissioners, perhaps none, anticipated this letter, but it is incredibly well written, and it is a challenge to Brad Witt, who's the head of the Natural Resources Committee. And I did see, and I do have something I could read here real quick, partially. Some would say it's too late, but better late than never. She just combined, Governor Kate Brown issues vetoes to preserve over $65 million for wildfire response. Again, better late than never. I won't read the news release. It's short, but the press release lists the Senate bill and also the House bill. That's where Brad Witt comes in. Of course, our Senator Hurd and Representative David Brock Smith, and of course we're still battling for the CARES relief funds. And I don't know if that's ever going to really get over the hump. It's because of what the state of Oregon is dealing with and the budget deficit. Yeah, it's just a scary time. We continue to fight on that, not just AOC, but of course our other representatives. Let's see. Working with David Fortman on the Brookings Port restrooms. They are really having some issues down there. And it's not the county's responsibility, but of course he and his staff have an interest in they're just destroying the restrooms. And because they went through a grant system, they have to keep them open to the public, and it's not working. So at some point we might want to entertain, Mr. Chair, an IGA agreement that he can make a pass through there, you know, more often than not. And I think we could help the Port of Brookings there, kind of like what we're doing with the city of Port Orford on the boat ramp. I think that's it. Okay. Yeah, that's all I've got. Thank you.
All right, so I just want to make a comment on what you said, the rain. I checked with the FAA actually this morning, and they are getting pretty pounded in Washington and Northern Oregon right now, and that is going to slide through here sometime between 4 and 6 this evening, they're estimating, and then it's supposed to rain again overnight a few times. So we are going to get a pretty good rain here They're getting level 2s and 3s in Portland and Eugene right now, so it is coming through.
Boy.
It's a narrow band, though. It's going to hit hard and fast, but it's a narrow band. So with that, we are going to take our lunch break, and then we will come back after lunch into executive session. And after our executive session, we will resume this meeting for direction from executive session. So with that, we are in recess. All right, coming out of executive session, staff is to proceed as directed. We have one more item on our agenda for today, and that's the high order for Director of Operations. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the hire for Mr. Rickert for Director of Operations.
And I'll make a supplement to that, provided his screening, his drug screening passes.
Okay, I accept that.
Do I have a second? I'll second. Further discussion? Roll, please. Got you, JJ.
Commissioner Gold,
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce,
Abstain?
Chair Pash.
Aye.
Motion carried 2-0.
All right, with that, nothing further. This meeting is adjourned.